Chapter 57. Sha Luo Nei was stepped on the ground by Chi Tian Yao. He had already lost the strength to resist. He said, "You are Wan Luan sure?" Chi Tian Yao laughed. "Chi Tian Yao, Millwall master." Sha Luo Nei cursed in his heart. A mill wheel master hiding in the caravan. This was too much of a scam. He said, "Senior, I didn't know Senior was a mill wheel master. Chi Tian Yao said with a grin. "Aren't you very powerful? You want the women to stay and the men to strip. Hee, really fucking impressive. Tell your men to put down their weapons immediately. Strip all of them." Saying so, he let go of his leg and crossed his arms, looking like he was watching a show. Sha Luo Nei was so scared that his legs went soft. He bargained, "Put down your weapons. Strip, then forget it. Senior, this is too ugly." Chi Tian Yao fiercely kicked him and said, "Ugly? You still know how fucking ugly it is? You are a practitioner, 1,000 Luan master, who knows how many times stronger than a desert bandit, as a desert bandit. Don't care if it's ugly or good-looking, strip." Lei Xingfeng could not help but want to laugh. He did not expect the serious Chi Tian Yao to have this kind of face. Sha Luo Nei could not resist. His life and death was really in the opponent's hands, and he clearly felt that the opponent did not have much killing intent, looking like he was having fun. If he were to be stubborn, he probably would not have a good ending. He was forced to the point that he had no choice. He could only shout, "Put down your weapons, strip your armor and clothes." "Senior, I'll strip my armor, clothes. Forget about clothes." Chi Tian Yao said, "What's with all this nonsense? Strip." The group of men threw down their weapons and began to strip. Yen spat. She said, "You are not allowed to strip." Lei Xingfeng remembered that his sister was still watching from behind. He also shouted, "You don't need to take off your underwear." Sha Luo Nei finally let out a sigh of relief, although there was no danger to his life. But to 1,000 Luan master, it was hard to raise his head in this lifetime. It was too ugly. Chi Tian Yao was originally just playing a prank. That's why, when Yin spoke, he no longer persisted and waved his hand in agreement. When Sha Luo Nei stripped down to only a pair of gray underpants, he lifted his leg and kicked, saying, "Follow me." Sha Luo Nei followed him uneasily and arrived in front of everyone. Chi Tian Yao said, "Go, greet the 3 seniors." Sha Luo Nei discovered the 3 old men. His heart was beating wildly. Chi Tian Yao was a mill wheel master. What was the strength of the seniors he spoke of? He was already cursing Tua Tashur in his mind. He bowed respectfully and said, "Sha Luo Na greets all seniors." Sha Luo Na did not know seniors were here. "Please excuse me." He was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. Thunderstorm, and Shiquan did not speak. Hong Chen said, "We are too lazy to care about your trash matters, but you shouldn't have attacked us." Sha Luo Nei wanted to cry, but had no tears. He had been tricked. Not only had his subordinates tricked him, even the caravan had tricked him. He had already understood that these people were definitely not from the caravan. He had been used as a tool. "I didn't know. Seniors, I apologize. I will compensate." Hong Chen said, "How to settle this, you and the caravan can discuss it yourselves. All right, you can leave." It was hard for him to reason with a small 1,000 Luan master, and it was impossible for him to start a massacre and kill all of these desert bandits. Killing these desert bandits would not give him any sense of accomplishment. Sha Luo Nei said in disbelief, "Senior, you won't pursue this matter?" Hong Chen laughed and scolded, "You really want me to pursue this matter?" Sha Luo Nei was overjoyed. No, thank you, Senior. Thank you, Senior, for your magnanimity." He kept retreating. Tua Luo Niao used this chance to bring people to surround all of the desert bandits. He also kept his weapons and armor. Facing a large group of desert bandits who had lost their weapons, he specially sent people to capture Tua Tashur. After Sha Luo Nei left this group of terrifying practitioners, he turned around and walked towards his own group. After all, he was a practitioner. Even if the caravan was the victor, they would not dare to go too far. The caravan did not have the strength to keep 1,000 Luan master. Tua Luo Niao brought a few low-level Luan masters and came in front of Sha Luo Nei. He said, "Your people have already been captured by us. What do you plan to do?" Sha Luo Nei did not want to continue at all. This time he fell into a big hole. His luck was really bad. He stared and said, "Plan my ass. I lost. You tell me, what should I do?" Tua Luo Niao really did not dare to do anything. He said, "Leave one person behind." Sha Luo Nei immediately understood and said, "I'll give Tua Ta Shi to you. This bastard, he made me suffer such a huge loss. Even if you don't do anything to him, I won't forgive him." Tua Luo Niao said, "Also, you have to compensate for our losses." Sha Luo Nei said, "Compensate for what losses? I also suffered a huge loss here. Do you think it was you who defeated us? If it wasn't for those people, would you still be standing in front of me? Don't go too far. If not, I'll go all out." Tua Luo Niao's heart tightened. He knew that if he offended this person, he would really be entangled with him in the future. At that time, it would not be easy. He said, "So many of our people died. We will have to spend a huge sum of money as compensation. You can't leave without compensating anything." A leather bag suddenly appeared in Sha Luo Nei's hand. He threw it to Tua Luo Niao and said, "Here are 300 gold rings. I only have that much wealth. Also, you have to return the clothes, armor, and weapons to us." Tua Luo Niao shook his head. What a joke! If he gave them the weapons, and if they turned against him, it would be another battle. He said, "I'll give you the clothes, but I can't give you the armor and weapons." Actually, Sha Luo Nei was just saying, to be able to get back the clothes and not let his underlings leave naked. He had already achieved his goal. With that group of practitioners around, to him, the pressure was too huge. The earlier he left, the better. He did not want to continue staying here. He said, "Okay, give us the clothes. I don't want the rest." Tua Luo Niao did not want to continue arguing and said straightforwardly, "Okay, deal." With 300 gold rings, he could already compensate for some losses. Of course, his losses were not just 300 gold rings. But at this point, he could only admit his loss. Who asked his strength to be inferior to others? This result already made him very satisfied. Sha Luo Nei came to the front of his underlings who were surrounded and said, "Put on your clothes. We're leaving." In a moment, the desert bandits retreated like a tide and quickly disappeared. Tua Luo Niao saw the desert bandits leave and finally relaxed. He said, "Bring Tua Ta Shi here." Revenge against Tua Ta Shi was certain. Of course, Shi Quan and his group were not interested. At this time, the sky had already turned white. A night had passed. This oasis was not where Shirong country was. This was a very small oasis. After passing through this oasis, after walking for another 2 days, they would truly enter the huge oasis where Shirong country was located. Actually, this could not be considered an oasis anymore. It should be considered a very large piece of green land. It was considered a hilly area with large amounts of swamps and rivers. It was completely different from a desert. After Shi Quan and his group entered Shirong country, they immediately separated from Tua Luo Niao's caravan. They entered a border city of Shirong country. It was a very small city because of the Shirong country's border troops stationed here. This place started to prosper. It had a population of 50 to 60,000. The garrison was about 3,000 people. This city was called Majin City. Although there were not many people, but because this area produced sand gold, there were many gold diggers. Today, a group of people drove 2 big horned bulls and 3 sand Tua beasts into Majin City. Lei Xingfeng looked at the city curiously. It was different from Hong Tong City. This city was very messy and dirty. The ground was filled with animal feces. The road was a complete mess. Rubbish was piled up, and mosquitoes flew everywhere. The houses on the side of the street were even more tattered. There was a stinky smell that made people want to vomit. Because it was close to the desert, the weather here was extremely hot. Most of the people wore long robes and covered their heads. Lei Xian Yao asked curiously, "Brother, why are they wearing so much? Aren't they hot? It's so weird. Why are they covering their heads?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Wearing robes is probably to block the sun. Uncovering their heads. You see so many bugs, it should be to block the bugs." He was also guessing. Yin said, "This place is really dirty and smelly." They were used to living in the forest. Not only was the air there good, the environment was clean. They had never seen such a dirty place. The most common shops on the side of the street were gold shops. On their signboards, it was written that they could exchange sand gold for money. There were also shops that sold food. There were also large amounts of private brothels. They were all targeted at gold diggers and the army. Yin said, "Master, we won't be staying here, right?" Hong Chen said, "I don't know. Let's see what everyone thinks. However, there aren't many inns here." Thunderstorm said, "The weather here is hot, and there is little rain. We can just build a shed in the wild. We don't even need a shed. Find a clean place and light a pile of insect-repellent grass. We can sleep anywhere. Who would want to stay in an inn?" Shi Quan laughed. "We don't need to stay in the city. Hee, this place, even if I don't pay attention to it, I can't stand it. It's too dirty." Hong Chen nodded. "That's right. This is the first time I've seen such a dirty place. If you let me stay here, I won't be used to it." Thunderstorm said, "We will pass through the city. We won't stay here." Just as they walked out of Majin City, they were blocked by a group of Shirong soldiers. There were about 100 soldiers. Lei Xingfeng was very interested in the soldiers of this place. This was the first time he had seen the soldiers of this world. In the mountains, there were no countries at all. They were all areas of influence. Different from countries, the various powers did not have a strict organization structure. They were all based on the level of their strength. Once something happened, the various factions would discuss and then work together to solve the problem. Chapter 58. But a country was different. A country raised a strong military force. The army was the backbone of a country. Therefore, a country was more organized, more violent, and more efficient than the sections. At first glance, Lei Xingfeng's impression was that this country's army was very ordinary. The uniforms the soldiers wore were very old. The weapons in their hands were also very ordinary. Their equipment was not as good as the Tiger Cliff Castle's hunters. The leather armor on their bodies was very simple. It only protected the chest and the back. There was no protection in other places. The soldiers' faces were dark. Although they were not malnourished, they were definitely not in their best condition. Their bodies were average. There were no particularly tall people. They held spears in their hands. The so-called spear was a long wooden handle. The tip of the spear was a foot-long steel spear. To Lei Xingfeng and the others, it was an inconceivable thing. In their hometown, a wooden spear was definitely not good. Just a little bit of strength, and the wooden handle would definitely break. Qi Tianyao stepped forward and said, "What's the matter?" His expression was very cold. The captain of the soldiers said, "These two, what kind of livestock are they? Why haven't I seen them before?" Qi Tianyao was surprised and said, "This is a big-horned cow. What's the problem?" He did not know that the big-horned cow was a specialty of the mountains. There was no such livestock here. The captain curiously said, "This bighorn cow, can it be eaten?" Everyone was stunned. What kind of question was this? Lei Xingfeng vaguely guessed in his heart. He stepped forward and said, "The meat of the bighorn cow is not bad. It can be eaten. However, very few people eat the bighorned cow. This livestock is the best camel beast." The captain happily said, "Sure enough, I heard others say that beef is the best. Unfortunately, we don't have any cows here." "Oh, right. Can you give us a bighorned cow?" Chi Tian, Yao said, "Give you a bighorned cow? What do you mean? How?" The captain said, "Well, we want to buy this bighorned cow." Chi Tian Yao laughed. "You want to eat the bighorned cow?" The captain nodded and said, "Yes, we have never eaten beef before. That's why we want to exchange for this bighorned cow." Chi Tian Yao said, "It's not impossible, but there are still many things on the bull's back. If the bighorn bull is given to you, no one will be able to carry those things." The captain said, "We'll use sand tuo beasts to exchange. 2 for 1. How about it?" Lei Xingfeng secretly nodded his head. At least these soldiers did not forcefully take it. They only wanted to exchange it. This was not bad. They were a group of foreigners. If they met the local army, if they forcefully snatched it, unless you were very strong, otherwise it would be in vain, you would have no place to redress your grievances. If the other party forcefully snatched it, Chi Tian Yao could teach the other party a lesson, but the other party only asked for an exchange. In fact, the bighorned bulls were not very useful in this area. The climate here was hot, and these bighorned bulls had already shown signs of fatigue. Since the other party was easy to talk to, Chi Tian Yao did not care. He said, 3 sand tuo beasts. These 2 bighorn bulls are yours. You have more than 100 people. 1 bighorn bull is not enough to eat." The captain was overjoyed and said, "Since it's like this, I invite you to the barracks. We have a lot of sand tuo beasts there. You can choose one." The captain's name was Wei Zhenglong. He was the leader of the guards of the barracks commander. Their commander was also a strange person, very delicious. He often let Wei Zhenglong go out to find some strange things to eat. After a long time, Wei Zhenglong also had a headache. The things that could be eaten in a place were always limited. Where could he find new food? So when he saw the bighorned bulls, he was immediately attracted. The barracks was only a few miles away from Maojin City. Everyone quickly arrived at the barracks. Wei Zhenglong's subordinates had already ran to the commander to report. Just as they entered the barracks, a big fat man brought a dozen people over. He said, "Zhenglong, I heard you found something good." Let me see." Wei Zhenglong ran over and said, "Sir, I found a bighorned bull. There's beef to eat." The big fat man's eyes lit up. He said happily, "Ah, really? How could there be a bull here?" It's really a bull." He looked at the bighorned bull's huge body. He could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. The old man, Thunderstorm, Qi Xian, Hong Chun, and the others were all dumbfounded. This fatty was definitely one of the best. Looking at the bighorned bull, he could actually swallow his saliva, a standard foodie. Only then did the big fat man greet Chi Tian Yao. And the others, he said, "I am the commander of this barracks, Jin Depang, nicknamed Fatty. Right, Millwall Master. May I ask who you are?" This guy was also a practitioner, and seemed to be a very young practitioner. No wonder he was already the commander of this barracks. Chi Tian Yao said, "Chi Tian Yao, Millwall Master. Nice to meet you, nice to meet you." Jin Depang's attention was always on the bighorned bull. When he suddenly heard Chi Tian Yao's words, he was also shocked. This place was very remote. Very few practitioners came here. So when he heard Millwall Master, he immediately paid attention. Because Jin Depang was a practitioner and also a Millwall Master, he already had the qualifications to let others register. Yen Yen said, "Yen, Millwall Master, this is my master. Du Hongchen, true Millwall Master." Jin Depang was really scared this time. True Millwall Master. That was an expert who had already condensed 1 true ring body. Just him alone could sweep through the entire barracks. He muttered in his heart, "Zhang Long, this brat. I told you to go find food, not to find a true mill wheel master. His mother. Don't ever offend this kind of expert." Qi Xian laughed. "Qi Xian, true Luanine master." Jean de Pang's legs went soft. He almost sat on the ground. He roared in his heart, "True Luanine master, 3 true ring bodies." Lousy has hit the jackpot. Such an expert actually came to Majin City. Luckily, the old man Thunderstorm didn't introduce himself. If he did, Jean de Pang would probably be paralyzed on the ground. In the end, even Lei Xingfeng introduced himself. Lei Xingfeng, Wan Luan Shi. Jean de Pang discovered that other than the old man and the child, the weakest was at least 1,000 Luan master. What kind of team was this? It was simply 2 scary, 2 true masters, a group of experts. Wei Zhenglong was also scared silly. He couldn't help but secretly rejoice. He didn't know why his attitude was so good just now. He didn't seem to be easy to talk to before. He didn't think that his good mood would actually let him escape a disaster. If he had forcefully snatched the big-horned bull, the entire barracks would be finished. He was only a small 100 Luan master. Moreover, he had just reached the level of 100 Luan master. In this team, any one of them could crush him to death, except for that little girl. Jean de Pang respectfully stepped forward and bowed, saying, "De Pang greets the 2 seniors." Qi Xian said, "Wrong." Jean de Pang's heart was beating wildly. He hurriedly said, "Senior, where did I go wrong?" Qi Xian pointed at the old man and said, "He is my brother, and also my senior, so it is 3 seniors, not 2. Jean de Pang felt that his pitiful heart was about to explode. A true Luanine master senior? You can scare me to death, but this old man is even scarier. Can you not be like this? I just want to eat some meat. Is there a need to be so scary?" He said, "Greetings, 3 seniors. Please come to my tent. Please, please." The old man Thunderstorm said, "All right, let's go sit together. We haven't eaten yet. Let's borrow the barracks to cook some food." When Jean de Pang heard about food, his spirit was immediately lifted, saying, "I have the best chef in Majin City, and also the best ingredients in Majin City. Please come and taste it. Hee. Sorry, I only like to eat. I don't care about anything else." Chi Tian Yao said, "Get someone to take the big horned bull, and also bring 3 sand tuo beasts." Jean de Pang hurriedly declined. "I really didn't know it was senior. Let's forget about the big horned bull." Chi Tian Yao said, "No need to decline. Since it's decided, there's no need to go back on it." Jean de Pang said, "Okay, Zhenglong, you do it. Bring 3 good sand tuo beasts. We can't let senior suffer. Quickly go, quickly go." Wei Zhenglong brought a few subordinates and put down the goods on the big horned bull. Only then did he let someone take the bull and leave. On the other side, Jean de Pang had already politely invited everyone to his tent. The so-called big tent was a tent made of oilcloth and felt, but this tent was very big, and it was completely empty on all sides. It was a shed to block the sunlight. The inside of the tent was full of chairs. The inside of the tent was very cool. Coming in from the hot outside, everyone felt a chill. Lei Exine Yao couldn't help but say, "It's so cool here." Jean de Pang proudly said, "There's a cold spring here, so my tent is especially cool. Hi hey, this is the best place in Majin City, cool and comfortable. It's a pity that I can't build a house here. Otherwise it would be even more comfortable." This fellow was purely a hedonist. Lei Xingfeng said, "Big brother Jean, why did you come with the army? With your current level, no matter where you go, it would be better than here, right?" Jean de Pang admired Lei Xingfeng, a youngster who was already Wan Luan Shi. At first glance, he was the kind of person with unlimited potential. Even if he didn't curry favor with this kind of person, he definitely couldn't offend him. Who knows what height he would grow to in the future. Jean de Pang said, "Little brother, in Shirong country, every practitioner who isn't in a sect has to serve the country. The army is actually a very good choice. It's nothing more than fighting the barbarians. With my level, even if there are more barbarians, I can still escape if I can't win. I also eat a lot. The salary of the army is high. I can run around, and there are many people who can help me find food. Hi hey, I joined the army when I was 1,000 Luan master. It's been 10 years. I'm doing pretty well. Lei Xingfeng smacked his lips. Big brother Jean, you're really amazing. For food you're willing to do anything. Jean de Pang proudly laughed. He said, Zheng Long, arrange the best banquet, prepare the most sumptuous food. I'm going to treat. Chapter 59. The meal was to everyone's satisfaction. Jean de Pang was indeed a big foodie. He was very particular about the way he ate. Even though Lei Xingfeng had eaten countless delicacies in his past life, he still admired Jean de Pang's cooking. This man was definitely a person who knew how to enjoy himself, especially Lei Xianyao. The pitiful little fellow had always been happy as long as she was full. Suddenly eating such delicious food, she immediately stuffed herself and kept burping. Then she hugged her stomach and hummed, praising the food nonstop. Jean de Pang's mouth was full of oil. He kept praising the delicious taste of the big-horned beef. Then he lamented that after eating these 2 big-horned cows, it would be hard to find such good meat again. Wei Zhenglong brought a group of soldiers in to clean up. Jean de Pang ordered him to make a pot of ink flower tea. This ink flower tea was a local specialty. It was good for digestion, especially for digestion. It could help with digestion. It was Jean de Pang's favorite. Lei Xingfeng tasted it. This ink flower tea was indeed very good. The taste was a bit bitter, but the aftertaste was sweet and refreshing. He specifically asked Jean de Pang for some ink flower tea. It was a type of dried black flour that was rolled into small balls. Once it was boiled, it would immediately bloom in the water. It was a very interesting drink. Xianyao drank a little, and the bloating in her stomach quickly disappeared. Everyone chatted for a while and bought some food from Jean de Pang. As for meat, they brought a lot from Hong Tong City, enough for the team to eat for a few months. The place Elder Thunderstorm wanted to go wasn't the capital of Shirong country, but a place called Stellar Night Fortress. Stellar Night Fortress wasn't a city, but a place where practitioners gathered. It was very famous in Shirong country because most of the people here were practitioners. The officials of Shirong country never dared to go there. This place was a no man's land. Shi Quan specifically asked, Jean de Pang, have you been to Stellar Night Fortress? Jean de Pang immediately felt relieved. He said, Stellar Night Fortress? This place is chaotic. Don't go if you don't have a bit of strength. Hee, of course, you guys can go. Thunderstorm asked, how far is this place from Stellar Night Fortress? Jean de Pang replied, it's not far, but it's not near either. It depends on which way you choose. If you take a shortcut, you'll arrive in 7 or 8 days. But if you follow the normal route, you'll need around 20 or 30 days. But there's a problem with taking a shortcut. You'll have to go through the barbarians' territory. This route isn't easy to traverse. Most people would choose to take the normal route. Thunderstorm said, well, let's take the shortcut. Do you have a map? Jean de Pang hurriedly said, yes. Zhenglong, give me the map. Wei Zhenglong brought a military map. It was a very detailed leather map. This map recorded the areas where the barbarian tribes gathered. They were all at the edge of the oasis and desert. They had to pass through a large desert barbarian tribe. Lei Xingfeng also looked at it. He said, you guys are in Majin City to defend against this barbarian tribe, right? Jean de Pang smiled and said, yes, it's this tribe. They have at least 600 to 700 barbarian warriors. In fact, the barbarians, even the children and the elderly, are very terrifying. Fortunately, Majin City has a tacit understanding with them. If they don't attack us, we won't be able to eliminate them. Of course, if we take the initiative to step into their territory, they have the right to attack us. We won't rescue them, and we can't rescue them. Shi Quan said, oh, you're not honest. You want us to weaken these barbarians. Jean Depang said, I don't dare to have such thoughts. I'm just pointing out 2 ways to reach Stellar Night Fortress. Hee hee. This was a typical overt scheme. Everything was on the table, and it was up to you to choose. If he took the shortcut, he would definitely clash with the barbarians. If he took the longer route, he wouldn't lose anything. Old Man Thunderstorm nodded and said, This little guy is quite smart. Jean Depang had a simple and honest look. He stared with his pair of innocent little eyes and said, I'm just a foodie. How can I be smart? Alas, I also hope I'm smart. Otherwise, I'll always be at a disadvantage. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. This guy did look simple and honest, but no one believed that he was honest. This fatty's shrewdness was hidden in his fat body. If they were careless, they would be betrayed by him. Old Man Thunderstorm said, We'll take the shortcut. He didn't care about the barbarians. If they dared to block the way, he would just kill them. It was also a good opportunity to train Lei Xingfeng's fighting skills. Jean Depang immediately beamed with joy. He had a cleanup mission every year. He didn't want to eliminate the barbarians, but only wanted to weaken their numbers. This time, he could be lazy and reduce the casualties of his soldiers. He wouldn't miss such a good opportunity. He smiled and said, This road is actually very easy to walk. It's flat and comfortable. There are many ponds along the way, enough to replenish the lack of drinking water. At this time, Jean Depang was very enthusiastic and explained everything he knew in detail. Chi Quan smiled and said, Not bad. You know a lot. Jean Depang showed off a little. Of course. Although I haven't been here for long, I know the situation here very well. I've explored this road 3 times. It can be said that I can pass through it even with my eyes closed. Old Man Thunderstorm said, So it's like this? Jean Depang was still puzzled. He thought to himself, Like what? Old Man Thunderstorm continued, In that case, you can be our guide. Huh? What? Old Man Thunderstorm said indifferently, You can be our guide. What's so strange about that? Jean Depang suddenly panicked. He said, This, Old Man, it's not that I don't want to, but Old Man Thunderstorm didn't wait for him to finish and interrupted, It's not that you don't want to. Then you do. Fine, we'll ask you to be our guide. You won't refuse, right? A powerful aura directly pressed down on Jean Depang. Jean Depang was just about to explain and decline when the powerful aura pressed down on him. He couldn't speak and his whole body stiffened. Only now did he realize that Old Man Thunderstorm's strength was terrifying to the extreme. When the aura suddenly disappeared, he almost fell to the ground. He said in a panic, I'm willing. Of course I'm willing. Cough, cough. I'm willing. He almost cried. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but laugh. This guy looked like he was the one who harmed you and wanted to thank me. This is really bad. Jean Depang wanted to say that he couldn't leave the camp, but to reason with Old Man Thunderstorm, his brain must be damaged. Although he was fat and tasty, he wasn't stupid at all. He knew he couldn't refuse. He smiled bitterly and said, Old Man, you're really overbearing. Old Man Thunderstorm said, You don't want to? Would Jean Depang dare to say no? Not even if he had the guts. He said, Of course I do. His tone was full of resentment. Old Man Thunderstorm spread out his hands and said, You're the one who wants to. I didn't force you. How am I overbearing? Jean Depang cursed in his heart. He squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying and said, Yes, yes, yes. Old Man is the best. You're not overbearing at all. You're kind and amiable. I did it willingly, willingly. Old Man Thunderstorm laughed out loud. Jean Depang shouted, Wei Zhenglong. Wei Zhenglong ran in from outside and said, Sir, what's the matter? Jean Depang said, Unhappily, follow me to Stellar Night Fortress. We'll take a shortcut. Wei Zhenglong immediately felt dizzy. He said, Sir, that's the territory of the barbarians. We'll be attacked if we go in. Jean Depang said, Nonsense, of course I know. We'll be the guide. As for the barbarians, there are so many experts here. It's not up to us to fight. Wei Zhenglong said, But what about the barracks? Jean Depang said, I asked you to come with me. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Go prepare some food. We won't be able to find any good food on the way, so bring more. Prepare 10 sand tuo beasts and give them to me. Remember, don't starve me on the way. Everyone looked at Jean Depang in shock. Their team had more than 10 people, but they only had 5 sand tuo beasts. This guy wanted 10 sand tuo beasts, and he had a hidden Luan space. Was he going to be the guide, or to eat and play? Jean Depang even apologized. I'm sorry, I can't go without food. Without food, everything is wrong. Don't worry. I promised to take everyone away, so I'll definitely leave well. Lei Xingfeng had a strange feeling. He said, Why do I feel like something's wrong? Old Man Thunderstorm said, What's wrong? Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, I can't put my finger on it, but it's definitely weird. Wei Zhenglong walked out of the tent to organize the supplies. He heard Jean Depang say loudly, Bring my copper stove. Oh, right, bring some charcoal too. We can barbecue meat. Saying this, he chased out of the tent. Everyone was dumbfounded. Was this guy planning to take the entire kitchen with him? With Jean Depang going, the happiest person was Lei Xian Yao. She clapped and said, Uncle Depang is going. I have good food. She had never eaten such delicious food before, so in her eyes, Jean Depang was a moving treasure trove. Following him, there would definitely be good food. Lei Xingfeng bitterly smiled and said, Yao Yao, I'll cook good food for you next time. Lei Xian Yao said softly, Brother, are you stupid? If there's free food, why would you cook it yourself? Lei Xingfeng was speechless. This child actually had such thoughts. But soon he became happy again. This little money grubber was indeed a little money grubber. If she could take advantage of others, she would never lose out. He said softly, Okay, we'll eat Fatty's food, hee. Lei Xian Yao smiled proudly. Chapter 60. This is the way you are leading us. Facing Qi Tianyao's question, Jean Depang had an innocent look and said, Yes, this is the only way. This is the shortest way. Qi Tianyao said, Ahead is where the barbarian tribe is. Are you planning to let us pass through the barbarian tribe? Jean Depang showed a simple and honest smile and said, With your strength, passing through the barbarian tribe is a piece of cake. Hee. Lei Xingfeng said, Brother Pang, you are using someone else's knife to kill people. Jean Depang laughed and said, Barbarians are not people. I am just using the road, not using someone else's knife. He did not admit it and pretended to be stupid. Elder Thunderstorm did not know whether to laugh or cry. They were indeed not afraid of the barbarians, but they also found it troublesome. It would be best if they did not provoke the barbarians. However, Jean Depang purposely led them to the front of the barbarian tribe. If they were to walk on this road, they would definitely be surrounded by the barbarians. Even if they wanted to avoid it, it would be impossible. They could only fight their way out. Wei Zhenglong commanded a dozen soldiers to lead the San Tuo beasts. They did not need to fight. They only needed to follow the group. Jean Depang knew that this group of experts wouldn't kill him for this reason. At most, they would just be annoyed. In his opinion, using the annoyance of this group of experts in exchange for the decline of the barbarian tribe was a very worthwhile trade. So, he kept a smile on his face. No matter who said something to him, he maintained a good-tempered appearance and didn't talk back. Everyone was angry and found it funny. This fellow was a scoundrel, seeing that he was the one who took care of them all along the way, and the taste was incomparably good. Everyone was too lazy to continue arguing. It was just killing barbarians. That was not a difficult thing. Chi Tian Yao's group, Jean Depang's group, and the group of San Tua beasts. This group was a big target. Very quickly, the barbarians discovered them. Jean Depang ordered Wei Zhenglong to lead the soldiers and San Tua beasts to hide behind the group. He also retreated, standing behind the group with an expression that said it was none of his business. Hong Chen could not help but laugh and scold. "Little fatty, don't scheme too much. Be careful not to lose out." Elder Thunderstorm did not care about him and said, "Afong, you go and kill them." Lei Xingfeng said, "I go and kill them alone." Shi Quan said, "Extermination team go together. Afong alone, he cannot block the barbarians' attack." Hong Chen also said, "Yin Yin is also going." The old man Lei Bao laughed. "That's good too. You guys charge over together. We'll follow behind and charge straight through the barbarian tribe." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Go." The more he experienced, the more he felt that his fighting power could be greatly improved. Even if he didn't use Lei Lunli's special skills, just the fighting skills alone, he had countless skills that he could learn. He could even learn them in battle. The barbarians had a lot of fighting skills, and they were all quite good. He learned a few sans ho from the barbarians. Low-level cultivators had to go through a lot of battles in order to grow. When they reached the higher level, they didn't need to fight so often. The main purpose was to cultivate a person's battle awareness and courage. Without these two things, even if you cultivated to the higher level, your battle strength would be much weaker. The weapons here were mostly steel spears, axes, steel rods, and the like. There were also a few large blades, various daggers, bows, shields, and so on. Other weapons were rarely seen. Xian Feng had always used steel spears, but in his heart, he preferred large blades. Especially among the barbarians, there were a few who would use large blades. The blade was like a small door. Even if it couldn't be chopped, it could be smashed to death. Lei Xingfeng flipped his hand. The black bow was already in his hand. He liked to use the bow first, then use the spear to attack. Since he had the hidden Luan space, it was very convenient to carry things, even more so with the bow. The use of arrows was extremely convenient. Once an arrow was shot, another arrow would appear in his hand, so continuous shooting was easy. Chi Tian Yao took the lead, rushing to the front. Yen followed behind. The rest of the 1,000 Luan masters and Wan Luan Shi lined up on both sides, forming an arrowhead. Lei Xingfeng leisurely followed behind. Everyone knew that his bow was special. The barbarians' defense could not block it. Almost one arrow, one kill. The efficiency of killing the barbarians was very high. There were more than 200 barbarians rushing out of the tribe. There was still a group of barbarians gathering behind. Arriving at the entrance of the tribe, to the barbarians it meant a fight to the death, no matter male or female, old or young. They all took up their weapons. This was a battle of life and death. The distance between the two sides was about 1,000 meters. The barbarians were shouting like a swarm of bees, madly rushing towards Chi Tian Yao's group. Every barbarian was tall. The shortest one was over 2 meters. Their shoulders were broad. Their arms were extremely thick. Every barbarian's face was painted with red and white battle marks. Each of them held a weapon, howling. Their running speed was extremely fast. Their big feet stepping on the ground was not inferior to the crazily running San Tua beasts. More than 200 barbarians, charging together, actually gave off the aura of a magnificent army with thousands of men and horses, while the clearing team here, in addition to Lei Xingfeng and Yen, only had a dozen people. The two sides could not be compared at all. Old Man Thunderstorm turned his head to take a look, only to see Jean Depang holding a meat bone in his hand, gnawing on it with all his might. Seeing the old man turn his head, he said embarrassedly before a battle, "I am always hungry. Eating something makes me feel better." Wei Zhenglong hid in the group of soldiers. He was really embarrassed. His senior officer was really embarrassing. Old Man Thunderstorm said indifferently, "You guys better keep up. Hey, let's go." He carried Lei Xian Yao and suddenly rushed out. Shi Quan and Hong Chun helplessly looked at each other. Only then did the two of them rush forward with the San Tua beasts. Jean de Pang was shocked, hurriedly throwing away the meat bone in his hand, shouting, "Keep up! Quickly keep up! Quick, quick, quick!" A group of people rushed forward with 10 San Tua beasts. If they could not keep up with the group, Jean de Pang knew in his heart that they would definitely be surrounded by the barbarians. At that time, other than himself, it would be hard for the others to escape. Old Man Thunderstorm and the other two's speed was extremely fast. If it wasn't for the San Tua beasts, they could catch up with the people in front of them at any time. Wanting to overtake them would also be very easy. 1,000 meters was 1 kilometer. This distance, for a practitioner, was a very short distance. It only took a few seconds. Lei Xingfeng's black bow had already started to sound. Chi-chi. Arrows flew out one after another. In an instant, the charging group of barbarians fell one after another. The whole group of barbarians scattered. Immediately after, Chi Tianyao shouted loudly, already crashing into the group of barbarians. He also held a steel spear. With chi-chi sounds, a few tall barbarians were immediately pierced by him. Yin Yin also held a steel spear. The two spears were like dragons emerging from the sea, crazily killing the barbarians that pounced at them. This group of practitioners attacked with tacit understanding. None of them used lunli, all of them attacking with brute force. The degree of craziness was even more terrifying than the barbarians. After Lei Xingfeng continuously shot out a dozen arrows, he flipped his palm, keeping his black bow. A steel spear appeared in his hand. He followed the rest of the group to kill the barbarians. After practitioners reached the level of 1,000 Luan Master and Wan Luan Shi, their body strength would far surpass the barbarians. Thus Lei Xingfeng and the rest's battle was very easy, and they were in a charging state. They didn't stop at the same spot. Instead, they madly charged forward, like a sharp knife cutting through butter, quickly cutting through the group of barbarians. Old Man Thunderstorm also charged through the group of barbarians. Only Jean de Pang's group was slightly slower. Jean de Pang howled, "Oh, fuck, hurry!" He couldn't ignore these soldiers and San Tua beasts. He took out a huge axe. He could only charge forward to kill. Luckily, the barbarians were already dizzy from Lei Xingfeng's killing. They didn't have time to surround them. This group of people had already charged forward. After continuously chopping down a few barbarians, Jean de Pang also charged out. He roared, "Don't stop! Quickly run! Quickly! Or else no one will save you." The second wave of barbarians attacked. Chi Tian Yao once again brought his people and charged into the group of barbarians. Lei Xingfeng madly ran all the way, killing all the way. This kind of exciting feeling made his blood boil. It was too satisfying. His ears were filled with the roars of barbarians. His eyes were filled with red blood. The Lei Lunli in his body was crazily revolving, giving him an endless amount of power. This wave of barbarians also couldn't stop them. In less than a minute, they once again opened up a path of blood. They had already charged into the barbarian tribe. Chi Tian Yao roared, "Don't linger, go forward, go forward, charge." Even Yen screamed and dashed forward. This woman was also stimulated. Her face was flushed red. Her eyes were wide open. The steel spear in her hand danced, killing people cleanly and efficiently. 3 to 5 groups of barbarians charged out from their own houses. Each one of them didn't care about their lives. The majority of them were elderly and children. Chi Tian Yao roared, "Don't hesitate, don't stop, kill your way out." This time Lei Xingfeng rushed to the front. He needed to fight, he needed to train. This kind of opportunity was the best. First of all, the barbarians had a hard time breaking through the defense. Second of all, the barbarians had rich battle experience, all kinds of strange techniques he could learn from. If he only relied on shooting arrows from the back, he wouldn't be able to get much training. So he rushed to the front, fighting side by side with Chi Tian Yao. Chi Tian Yao was busy, but he still smiled at him. In his heart, he admired this young man to be able to take the initiative to rush to the front. It proved that this child had a brave heart. Not everyone was suited to battle. Some people cultivated to the level of 1000 Luan Master Wanlin Shur, or even to the level of Millwill Master, but they didn't dare to battle, especially not to engage in cruel slaughter. These kind of people would often choose a sect or power to become a disciple's teacher. There were quite a lot of these people. A sturdy barbarian roared and rushed forward. He held a huge axe in his hand. The axe was as big as a mill wheel flashing a cold light. Chopping down with the axe, he let out a roar. The huge axe chopped directly towards Chi Tian Yao. Chi Tian Yao's figure flashed. The steel spear pierced out. The barbarian leaned to the side. The axe suddenly changed direction, sweeping across. Wu! Lei Xingfeng roared, "Be careful!" Chapter 61. Chi Tian Yao flashed and shouted, "There's one more!" Behind the sturdy barbarian, there was another barbarian. It was a barbarian youth. His whole body was dark. He held the same steel spear as Lei Xingfeng. Suddenly, the spear came out from under the barbarian's ribs and pierced towards Lei Xingfeng's chest. Lei Xingfeng raised his arm. In an instant, the tip of the steel spear shot out a bolt of lightning, striking the barbarian youth until his whole body trembled. Chi Tian Yao's spear suddenly flicked up from below. With a ding sound, he knocked away the axe. Because both sides were extremely fast, after exchanging 2 moves, he had already rushed past the barbarian youth. Lei Xingfeng shot out a bolt of lightning and also rushed past the barbarian youth. However, his spear's handle was thrust backwards. The spear's handle hit the barbarian youth's back, knocking him down to the ground. Before the sturdy barbarian and the barbarian youth could react, the group of people had already swept past like a whirlwind, not stopping at all. The barbarian youth cried out. Just as he stood up, he saw a big fatty rushing towards him. He roared and swung his axe. Jean de Pang was not a soft persimmon. Although this guy was delicious, he was also a mill wheel master. He was very strong, much stronger than Lei Xingfeng. He directly rushed into the barbarian's arms and fiercely rammed into his chest. A huge force exploded. The barbarian only felt pain in his chest and heard a kacha sound. The bones in his chest were all broken by Jean de Pang. Jean de Pang was like a speeding train, directly ramming into the barbarian youth. Jean de Pang then saw the barbarian youth trying to stand up. Jean de Pang continued to run and stepped on the barbarian youth's body. Jean de Pang's body was very heavy and his foot was very fierce. With a kacha sound, the barbarian youth screamed and fainted. Immediately, the 10 sand Tua beasts, 10 soldiers, and Wei Zhenglong crazily ran over and stepped on the barbarian youth one by one. By the time the group arrived, the barbarian youth had already been trampled to death by the group of people. Gradually, the barbarians also realized that something was wrong. This group of people did not come to kill. They only wanted to defeat the barbarians blocking their way. If they could kill the barbarians, they would not hesitate to kill them. However, if the barbarians retreated, they would not entangle and directly pass them. Therefore, the barbarians no longer dauntlessly blocked them. Barbarians were barbaric and crazy, but they were definitely not stupid. Otherwise, they would not have fought with humans for so long. Like breaking rotten wood, this group of barbarians was slaughtering barbarians. Along the way, they left behind many barbarians' corpses and wounded, although Jean de Pang was chasing after them. He was actually very happy. He estimated that at least 70 or 80 barbarians had died. As for the barbarians with light injuries, there were even more. Half of this large barbarian tribe had been destroyed. Like a gust of wind, the entire group rushed past the barbarian tribe in less than 10 minutes. The barbarian tribe was quite large, covering an area of 3 square kilometers. Their houses were also very scattered. They were all built with mud, straw, and some round logs. It was very primitive. The one who made the barbarians gnash their teeth the most was Jean de Pang. When this guy passed through the barbarian tribe, He was constantly releasing balls of raging fire. As long as he passed through the barbarian tribe, all the houses would be set on fire. He was killing and setting fire to the barbarians. His goal was very simple: to kill as many barbarians as possible and create more chaos. The soldiers under his command were running for their lives. Their faces were all pale. What a joke! They were surrounded by barbarians. They were ordinary people. If any barbarian pounced on them, they wouldn't be able to resist. If they couldn't escape, it meant that they would be eaten by the barbarians. They all knew that humans had always been one of the barbarians' food sources. Wei Zhenglong kept yelling, "Run! Run! Damn it, run faster! Whoever falls behind will be unlucky. No one can save them. Run!" Even though these soldiers were barely able to keep up, there was still one soldier who couldn't escape. This unlucky guy tripped over a barbarian's corpse. If he could get up and continue running, he might be able to escape. But the problem was that this soldier had sprained one of his legs. How could he escape with a limp? It must be known that this group of people was running at full speed. Soon, he was drowned by the barbarians chasing after him. Hearing that soldier's screams and howls, all the soldiers seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. They ran with all their strength. Wei Zhenglong was still shouting, "Motherf asterisk her, pay attention to your feet, pay attention to your feet. Don't fall, or no one can save you. Quick, quick, quick." One of the soldiers ran while screaming, "I can't run anymore. I can't run anymore. I'm going to die." Wei Zhenglong scolded, "If you can't run, then go die. What are you screaming for? Quick, quick, faster." He was anxious. The barbarians in front of him had already started to pull away. If it wasn't for Jean Depang, who was in between the two groups, continuously killing the barbarians who were charging at them, they would definitely have been blocked by the barbarians. Even so, it was still very dangerous. Finally, everyone rushed out of the barbarian tribe's camp and killed their way out. After running for a while, the barbarians behind them gradually gave up chasing. Only a few barbarians were unwilling to give up and continued to follow them. Qi Tian Yao raised the steel spear in his hand and yelled, "Good! Stop!" The two groups stopped. Jean Depang looked back and saw that he didn't lose any of his 10 sand Tuo beasts. However, he did lose 2 soldiers. One of them was very unlucky and fell down in the barbarian camp. The other one ran over, but when they stopped, he fell down and died. It was that guy who was screaming like a ghost. His heart exploded, and he died from running too fast. Lei Xingfeng stopped. There was a thin layer of sweat on his forehead. This distance was nothing, but it was too exciting. His sweat was brought about by his excitement. Lei Xingyao came down from Elder Thunderstorm's embrace. She was already used to seeing slaughter. Ever since she left Tiger Cliff Castle, she gradually got used to this kind of situation. To her, this was actually a good thing. In the future, when she started to train, she wouldn't have any resistance towards slaughter. Elder Thunderstorm laughed. "Afong, how was it?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Exciting, satisfying. I have never fought like this before. It made my blood boil." The old man Lei Bao, Shi Quan, and Hong Chen all laughed loudly. Actually, they were too embarrassed to make a move. Their level was too high, and they already disdained to make a move against the barbarians. It felt like a strong man bullying a group of ants. There was no sense of accomplishment. But watching the younger generation kill, that feeling was different. Jean Depang was reprimanding his subordinates. He said, "Zhenglong, what kind of plaything did you choose?" "I told you to choose a stronger soldier." "Fuck, an idiot was trapped in the camp and was probably eaten. There was also an idiot that actually ran to his death. Too fucking weak. How did you train them normally? This isn't a battle, it's just running. Fuck, they don't even know how to run." Wei Zhenglong felt wronged. The soldiers he found were already very strong, but how could they compare to this group of abnormal practitioners? If it was just normal soldiers, they probably wouldn't be able to catch up even if they ran to their deaths. Even so, 2 of them died. He didn't dare to reply. He could only listen to Jean de Pang's spittle. He understood that Jean de Pang was heartbroken. This fellow had always been protective of his own people. Now that 2 of his subordinates died, his mood would definitely be bad. Yen sat at the side. She was thinking about the battle just now. To her, this kind of battle was hard to come by. It also helped her a lot. Now, she was fighting with the weaker barbarians. In the future, she would gradually transition to fighting with people of similar level. Developing a good battle awareness was her goal. She didn't care how many barbarians she had to kill. Lei Xingfeng was also reflecting. This kind of battle also helped him a lot. According to the teachings of the old man, there were no shortcuts in battle. One could only rely on one battle after another to strengthen oneself and develop a good battle awareness. Especially at a young age, once a good battle awareness was developed, one's battle power would definitely surpass people of the same level. In this battle, the 2 people who benefited the most were Yen and Lei Xingfeng. This was also the reason why the old man Thunderstorm didn't object to attacking the barbarian tribe's camp. There were still barbarians lingering in the distance. They already understood that this group of people was very strong and wasn't something they could fight against. Therefore, they didn't dare to fight. Instead, they watched from afar, hoping to see them leave. The group rested for a while. This wasn't a good place to rest, so they quickly resumed their journey. This was the border between the desert and the oasis. There was no lack of trees and wild grass. There were also many ponds. Under Jean de Pang's lead, they came to a small river in the evening. The water was very shallow and very clear. The water quality was quite good. A few thousand Luan masters went out to hunt. There was a very famous sea buckthorn chicken here. It was a very famous delicacy. Under Jean de Pang's suggestion, Qi Tian Yao sent a few subordinates to hunt with Jean de Pang. When the bonfire was lit, Jean de Pang brought a few people back from hunting. For Luan masters, this kind of hunting was a piece of cake. They had hunted a total of 10 sea buckthorn chickens. Jean de Pang said regretfully, "Too bad, we didn't have enough time. Otherwise, we could have hunted more sea buckthorn chickens." The sea buckthorn chicken wasn't big. According to Lei Xingfeng's eyes, this sea buckthorn chicken was only a little bigger than the pigeons in his previous life. Sea buckthorn chicken soup was a holy dish for making soup. Sea buckthorn chicken soup was not only delicious, but also tender. It didn't need to be stewed for a long time. Jean de Pang was a foodie and also a gourmet. He personally made a few big pots of sea buckthorn chicken soup and personally filled a big bowl for the 3 sages. The old man Thunderstorm passed the bowl to Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "Pang Ji's flattery is good." Everyone burst into laughter. Jean de Pang's expression didn't change as he said, "I'm just showing respect to my elders. Little brother, don't worry, Pang Ji will also flatter you." As he spoke, he also passed a bowl to Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng tasted a mouthful and couldn't help but praise, "Good soup." Lei Xingyao also said, "Brother, this soup is delicious." Shi Quan and the others also praised. This sea buckthorn chicken soup was really delicious. Chapter 62. Jean de Pang was very proud. He said, "This is one of Shi Rong country's best specialties. It can only be found at the border between the desert and the oasis. Such a sea buckthorn chicken. If it's a live chicken, in Shi Rong country's capital, a sea buckthorn chicken is worth a gold ring. If you're not rich, you definitely can't afford it." Xian Yao clicked her tongue. "Wah, so expensive. I want to drink more." He. Everyone ate happily. Even the soldiers drank a big bowl of sea buckthorn chicken soup. Following this Commander Jean Depang, they can't talk about anything else, but in terms of food, it's definitely good. They can eat a lot of strange food. Although Jean Depang often reprimanded his subordinates, their loyalty is very high. After a night's rest, the group continued on their journey. A few days later, the group entered Stellar Night Fortress. They didn't walk far before they met with a group of robbers, and they were all practitioners. Most of them were 100 Luan Masters or 1,000 Luan Masters. They were killed by Qi Tianyao, Lei Xingfeng, and Wen Yan until they pissed their pants. For some reason, after entering Stellar Night Fortress, they continuously met with robbers. After killing a group, they didn't walk far before another group came. Jean Depang said curiously, "I used to say that Stellar Night Fortress is very chaotic, but this is the first time I know that Stellar Night Fortress is so chaotic. It's strange that I haven't seen it before. How can there be so many robbers? Could it be that they lack money?" The old man Thunderstorm said, "Since you're curious, don't kill them all. Just catch a few and ask them." Qi Tianyao nodded. "That's good. A Feng. When may catch a few in the future, then kill them." After this period of time, the three of them became familiar with each other, calling each other brother, and sister. They seemed to be very close. Lei Xingfeng said, "Big brother Qi, sister Wen Yan, I'll be in charge of releasing electricity. You guys are in charge of catching." He could use this move to slow down the enemy and make them lose their ability to move temporarily. In fact, he had a lot of Lei Lunli techniques that he did not use. It was not that he did not want to use them, but the old man asked him to use them sparingly. Once he got used to it, he would not want to fight in close range. Jean Depang, as the backup member of the three, would normally fight with the three of them. If there were too many people, he would have to go up. As for the cleanup team, they were ordered by Shi Quan to guard the sand Tua beasts and were not allowed to go up to fight. He had already seen that old man Thunderstorm wanted to train Lei Xingfeng, and Hong Chen also agreed, as he also wanted his disciple to participate in more battles. Another 2 days passed. Just as they were about to arrive at Stellar Night Fortress, Lei Xingfeng and the others thought that there would be no more danger. They did not expect that the team would encounter a group of cultivators robbing them. Lei Xingfeng said, "No wonder no ordinary person dares to enter this place. The robberies are too frequent. Strange. Are these people crazy?" Jean Depang said unhappily, "I don't know if they are crazy or not, but I'm about to go crazy. There's no end to it. It's so annoying." Lei Xingfeng said, "Pang Gu, I didn't ask you to go up. It's just me, brother Qi, and sister Yen fighting. What's there for you to be annoyed about?" Jean Depang said, "Annoying?" Xian Yao could not stop laughing. She liked to see Jean Depang's sad face. It was as fun as it could be. These few days, Jean Depang had been sucking up to the little girl, giving her all kinds of snacks. Jean Depang knew that as long as he sucked up to the little girl, there would definitely be benefits. Because of how much old man Thunderstorm doted on the little girl, he could clearly see it. So sucking up to the little girl was the same as sucking up to the old man. Jean Depang took out a special dried meat and passed it to Xian Yao, saying, "Yao Yao, eat some meat and watch your brother kill people." Xian Yao took it without hesitation, saying, "Thank you, Pang Gu." Jean Depang laughed, saying, "Good Yao Yao." At first, when he called her Yao Yao, the little girl would roll her eyes. Only after he sucked up to her did the little girl finally agree. This time, the robbers did not even set up an ambush, but blocked the road, brazenly robbing. There were a total of 7 people. No one knew why they were so daring. The strongest among them was only 1,000 Luan Master, but they actually dared to rob a group of mostly 1,000 Luan Masters. Put down your money, leave behind the sand Tua beasts, and leave behind this woman, then the rest can pass. Qi Tianyao was angered to the point of laughing, saying, Is there something wrong with their brains? Yen was angered by the words leave behind the woman. She giggled and walked forward, saying, "You want me to stay?" The group laughed, saying, "That's right, that's right. The lady stays." One of the wretched guys said, "This uncle is lacking a lady to warm my bed. I'll choose you. Ha ha, white and tender. It suits my taste." Another guy said, "Hey, why is it yours? It's all of us." The group of people immediately laughed happily, all of them rubbing their fists, eager to give it a try. Yan's face had already turned green. She suddenly laughed coldly. After this period of fighting, Lei Xingfeng was very clear. Yan was already angered. He laughed and said to Qi Tianyao, "Big sister, Yan wants to kill people." Qi Tianyao nodded. He also knew that Yan was angered, saying, "All right, it's good to let them experience it. I just don't understand. Why are these people rushing forward dauntlessly, not caring about their lives to rob?" Yen suddenly pounced forward. She did not say anything and directly charged forward. The opponent's strongest was only 1,000 Luan master. Most of them were 100 Luan masters. How could they fight against a mill-wheel master? In an instant, one of them was killed by her. The opponent seemed to be scared silly, continuously shouting, "Stop, stop." Yen shouted, "Stop your mother's hand. Kill." Lei Xingfeng said, "Interesting. The robbers here, every time they start fighting, they would shout to stop. Once the fight starts, shouting to stop, isn't it too stupid?" He had not finished speaking. Yen had already killed the third person. The opponent did not have any ability to resist. The gap between the two was too big. Even Lei Xingfeng did not have the desire to participate in the fight. Yen was like cutting melons and vegetables in a few breaths. She killed 4 people. Lei Xingfeng suddenly thought of something and shouted, "Big sister Yen, leave a few alive." With this sentence, Yen killed another 2 people. The remaining 1, if not for Lei Xingfeng's timely shout, most likely would have been killed by her. With one kick, she kicked down the last survivor. She stepped on that person and said, "Luckily, there's one left. I'm so angry that I'm confused." Using strength to step on that person, she lowered her head and asked, "You still want me to stay?" "Humph, even if I stay, can you all live?" That person was already scared to the point of crying and said, "Spare me." You all don't follow the rules." Everyone gathered. Lei Xingfeng squatted down and asked curiously, "Follow the rules? We have to follow the rules?" That person said with tears in his eyes, "We guard the road. You all go through as long as you win against us. You can go through. As for killing us." Lei Xingfeng and the others looked at each other. They did not understand what this person was saying. Yen fiercely stomped on the other person's foot and said, "You want me to stay? What's going on?" That person cried, "Isn't this a joke? Since you're not allowed to kill, taking advantage of you, you won't die." This time, everyone heard the problem. Qi Tian Yao said, You're not allowed to kill? What do you mean?" That person cried and said, "We are all disciples from different sects who came out to train, killing each other, but we're not allowed to kill each other. We can seize each other's equipment. Of course, we cannot touch the things in the hidden Lun space. We cannot touch them. But you all come up and kill? You don't follow the rules." Suddenly, that person trembled. As if he thought of something, he said, "You all are not disciples here to train." Only then did he react. These disciples did not understand the dangers outside. They even purposely pretended to be bad guys. It would be hard to not die even if they wanted to. Everyone was dumbfounded. No wonder there were so many robbers. No wonder their strength was so weak. No wonder once the battle started, they were all clay chickens and pottery dogs with Qi Tianyao, Yen, and Lei Xingfeng's strength. If they attacked together, they would not even have the chance to explain. With the three's battle experience, once the battle started, it would be a life and death struggle. There would not be a trace of mercy. Plus, the three's strength was high. They did not have a single captive. Of course, they did not know that there was a large group of disciples here to train. Lei Xingfeng said, "I'm curious. Can't you see that we are different from the disciples here to train? Why are you still talking nonsense? That person cried even more and said there were disciples mixed in with other people's groups trying to fish in troubled waters. So Old Man Thunderstorm coughed and said, which sects are participating in this event? That person counted with his fingers and said, Golden Sand Sect, Great Eagle Sect, Shatua Gang, Green He Alliance, Poison Scorpion Sect, Great Tranquility Sect. He named more than 20 sects in one breath. Thunderstorm nodded. With a flick of his finger, a silver light flashed, and that person immediately died on the ground. Along the way, they had killed at least 100 people. If this was leaked out, it would be very troublesome, although Old Man Thunderstorm was not afraid. This kind of thing was better not to be exposed. In fact, they had already poked a hornet's nest. Along the way, they had killed so many disciples. Fortunately, they had a habit of burning the dead with fire. However, as time passed, those sects would eventually realize that something was wrong. A few sparks flew out, and the 7 corpses were burnt to ashes in a few seconds. The old man, Lei Bao, said, "Let's go. This is not a place to stay for long. Fatty, come here. We better take a detour and erase our traces." At this moment, 2 people flew over from afar. Trouble was coming. Chapter 63. The 2 mill wheel masters. With one look it was obvious that they were important figures in the sect. Their speed was extremely fast. In just a few breaths of time, they had already arrived. Elder Thunderstorm, Shi Quan, and Hong Chen were all silent, their expressions indifferent, as they looked at the 2 people who were flying towards them. The others also stood still, quietly waiting for them to arrive. Lei Xingfeng said softly, "They shouldn't be disciples on training, but supervisors of the sect." Elder Thunderstorm said indifferently, "I hope they don't notice anything." Lei Xingfeng's heart shivered. He understood the meaning of those words. If these 2 people notice anything, then don't even think about leaving here alive. Elder Thunderstorm always gave him a kind feeling, but ever since his injuries were healed, some of his actions made him understand that the elder was only good to him and his sister. As for outsiders, he really didn't care. If he should kill, he would kill. If he should beat, he would beat. Of course, Lei Xingfeng also didn't care. To him, the elder was his family. He didn't care about anything else. When the 2 mill wheel masters saw them, they flew over, quickly arriving in front of the crowd. Zhong Zhong was the supervisor of Daning Sect's outer sect. Hong Shafei was the supervisor of Daning Sect's War Eagle Hall. The 2 of them were mill wheel masters. These few days, the 2 of them received orders from their respective sects. There were many disciples on training that suddenly disappeared without any trace. The 2 of them received orders to protect the disciples on training. This training had already ended early. The 2 of them arrived in front of the crowd. Zhong Zhong said, "Did you see a few youngsters?" Chi Tian Yao said, "No, we didn't see any youngsters." He denied. Hong Shafei looked around. He suddenly said, "Old Zhong, quickly come over." Zhong Zhong quickly walked to Hong Shafei's side. Hong Shafei pointed to the ground, causing him to be stunned. There were traces of fire on the ground, and with one look, he knew that it was the fire produced by Huolin Li. In an instant, he realized that these were not traces of battle, but traces of fire. Hong Shafei squatted down and reached out his hand to touch the ground. He grabbed a handful of soil and inspected it. His expression changed. Based on his experience, there was a corpse that had been incinerated. There were pieces of ash in the soil. Zhong Zhong's face instantly turned pale. He pulled Hong Shafei and wanted to retreat, but when he pulled Hong Shafei, he discovered that he was already surrounded. Chi Tianyao was not stupid. When Hong Shafei squatted down, he had already secretly ordered his men to surround the 2 of them. Since they were discovered and they were still at the scene, they were the ones who killed them. Even if they were not the ones who killed them, they would not be able to explain themselves. So the only solution was to keep the two of them alive. Lei Xingfeng shook his head inwardly. He also followed and surrounded them. He knew that these two people could not be let go. Once these two people escaped, he reckoned that all the sects would come to kill them. Shi Quan and the old man Thunderstorm looked at each other. This problem had to be solved. Killing two people was better than killing countless small sections. There was no doubt about that. So the two had a tacit understanding after looking at each other. They couldn't let these two go. Zhong said in a deep voice, "Who are you people?" Hong Shafei acted as if he was facing a great enemy. He could already tell that these people were not normal people. They were extremely powerful. He said, "I am the manager of the Great Eagle sect, Hong Shafei. I am a mill wheel master. Why do you want to kill our disciples?" Zhong said, "Dening sect, Zhong. I am a mill wheel master." The two of them had the same idea. They wanted to make the other party not dare to make a move. So they directly revealed their sect and rank. A mill wheel master was considered to be a middle to high rank cultivator. Of course, to a sage, a mill wheel master was too weak. There were countless mill wheel masters, but to be able to advance to a sage with one true ring body, a sage with a mill wheel master was extremely rare. Out of 100 mill wheel masters, there might not even be 5 sage with a mill wheel. So mill wheel masters had a large deterrent force among cultivators. However, the two of them did not expect that in this small group there would be 3 sage-level super experts. The two of them had no effect at all. Qi Tianyao did not explain, nor did he have any way to explain. Could he tell them that it was because they came to rob them? So they killed these people? Thus no one explained. Everyone knew that unless the other party did not come, it would be a situation where they would fight to the death. Their only mission was to keep the two of them here and not let them escape. At this time, no matter if it was Qi Tianyao, Yen, or Lei Xingfeng, they did not have any thoughts of gaining battle experience. Qi Tianyao said, "Sorry who we are, you don't need to know." Shi Quan said, "Old bro, you want to do it or should I?" Thunderstorm was too embarrassed to make a move. It was just a mill wheel master. If he made a move, it would be bullying a child. He stretched out his hand and said, "Old bro, please." Shi Quan nodded and smiled. "That's good too. I haven't fought in a long time." Hong Chen said, "Let me do it." "Hee, I haven't moved yet. I'm embarrassed." Shi Quan said, "All right, since your hands are itchy, then you do it." The three of them were being humble to each other. Zhong and Hong Shafei's faces turned white. Although the three of them had restrained their auras, but no matter if it was the way they spoke or their relaxed expressions, the two of them felt that something was wrong. Doubt flashed in their hearts. Could it be that the three of them were sage-level experts? Zhong and Hong Shafei did not dare to continue hesitating. The two of them had a tacit understanding and shouted at the same time. They split into 2 directions and rushed out. Hong Shafei rushed towards Qi Tianyao's position, while Zhong rushed towards Lei Xingfeng's position. Qi Tianyao shouted, "Go back!" The two of them collided head-on. In an instant, there was a loud explosion. The two of them retreated at the same time. They were both mill wheel masters. Their lunli was about the same. Hong Shafei was unable to break through Qi Tianyao's obstruction. Zhong, who collided with Lei Xingfeng, made Lei Xingfeng suffer a bit. He was beaten back continuously. However, Lei Xingfeng's unique Lei lunli also made the opponent suffer. One must know that lightning has always been overbearing. Although Lei Xingfeng used the lowest level of Lei lunli, he still succeeded in making Zhong tremble for a long time. Hong Chen shouted, "You all back off, I'll do it." A fist landed on Zhong's chest. Actually, this was all thanks to Lei Xingfeng's Lei lunli. Zhong was still trembling when he saw a fist coming towards him. His limbs were slow, and he had no way to resist. He could not help but shout. He was extremely unwilling. The Mi ring armor on his body gave off a dazzling light. No matter what, he had to block this attack. He desperately injected his Lunli into the Mi ring armor. Hong Chen's light punch made Zhong's Mi ring armor shatter like paper. This punch landed directly on Zhong's chest. He could only watch as the fist made contact with his chest. Following that, incomparable pain surged forth. His vision turned black, and he was beaten to death by this punch. Just one punch to kill a mill wheel master. Hong Chen roared and rushed towards Hong Shafei. Hong Shafei's pupils shrunk. He was really frightened. As a mill wheel master, he could not believe that Zhong could not resist at all and was killed by one punch. A thought flashed through his mind, and he could not help but shout, "Stop! You are a real person. You can't attack me." Hong Chen had already rushed in front of him. He heard him say, "Idiot! Go and die." Hong Shafei did not dare to block. He dodged to the side. There was only one thought in his mind: escape. Pa! Another light punch landed on Hong Shafei's back. Hong Shafei concentrated all his Lunli into the Mi ring armor on his back. In an instant, the Mi ring armor shattered. Different from Zhong, he concentrated all his Lunli on his back. Although the Mi ring armor shattered, it dispersed most of the power. Following the impact of this punch, his entire person was like a kite with a broken string. He directly passed through the surrounding people and landed outside. His feet landed on the ground, and he fiercely rushed forward. Hong Chen said, "Smart guy, but you can't escape." Hong Shafei spat out a mouthful of blood. He knew that his internal organs had already shattered. It was all because of his Lunli that he was supporting himself. He raised his hand and threw out a Luan weapon. That Luan weapon let out a woo-woo sound and instantly flew into the air. It exploded in the air. This was the signal for an enemy attack and rescue. It was also the most serious and highest level signal. The old man Lei Bao shouted, "Kill him!" Hong Chen's face instantly turned red. He felt that he had never looked this bad before. After being humiliated by someone, he immediately went crazy and rushed towards Hong Shafei, scolding, "Go to hell, you bastard! I will crush you!" Hong Shafei staggered and ran a few steps. He suddenly understood that it was impossible for him to escape. Thinking that he had already sent out the signal, his face could not help but reveal a sinister smile. He turned around and looked at Hong Chen, who was rushing towards him, saying, "Our great eagle sect will not let you go." Hong Chen raised his hand and chopped down, scolding, "Idiot! Originally you were going to die, but now I'm going to kill your whole sect." Hong Shafei suddenly realized that there was definitely something wrong with the identity of this group of people. It was hard to say whether his signal was a blessing or a curse. His face showed extreme unwillingness as he was chopped to death by Hong Chen's palm. Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. Hong Chen was right. This person was an idiot. If he had just died silently, everyone would have been fine. But if they had confirmed that they were the culprits and attracted a large group of people to surround and attack them, who knows how many people would have died? With the experts in their group, a normal small to medium-sized sect was not enough. Especially in the group, there was a super expert, a super demon. The consequences of angering him were something that even Lei Xingfeng did not dare to imagine. Thunderstorm said, "Okay, let's go." Qi Quan said, "Burn these two bodies." Qi Tianyao said, "Leave it to me." Chapter 64. Everyone quickly packed up and destroyed all traces. Jean Depang didn't dare to continue leading them through the predetermined path. but turned and headed in another direction. At the very least, they needed to enter Stellar Night Fortress from another direction. Jean DePang specially instructed them not to kill anyone along the way and not to alert anyone. After crossing the main road, the group entered a sparse forest. Just as they entered the forest, they noticed someone heading towards the place where they had stopped. Carefully hiding, the group walked in the forest very quietly. Outside, there were long whistles, which was a communication method unique to this place. Elder Thunderstorm's expression was obviously not good, according to his temper. He didn't care if he was discovered or not. He would just kill his way over. Whoever blocked him would die. But looking at Lei Xingfeng and Lei Xingyao, he sighed slightly and let it go. After all, he wasn't alone. They hurried through the night, and on the second day, they stepped onto another main road. This road into Stellar Night Fortress meant that they were no longer suspicious. Jean DePang suddenly understood. He immediately ordered his soldiers to change into ordinary clothes. No wonder they were misunderstood by the disciples on their way here. They had forced their way through the barbarian tribe, which was a dead end. Of course, no one would come here, so it was normal for them to be misunderstood. They were already close to Stellar Night Fortress, and after hurrying through the night, they arrived at another road. The sky was already bright, and on the main road, they could see many people and carriages, as well as teams of sand tuo beasts. Lei Xingfeng laughed. "This road is still for people. There's not even a shadow on the road in front." "Hee hee." Jean DePang said, "Of course, why don't you think about it? Other than us, who else would walk on that road?" "Hee hee." Lei Xingfeng said, we're going to Stellar Night Fortress. Do you have a specific address?" Elder Thunderstorm nodded. "And I have an old friend there. And some friends, maybe they've already arrived." His tone was a little emotional. Lei Xingfeng thought for a while and understood why the elder was emotional. After he was injured, he probably didn't plan to see his old friends again. This time, he actually came out again and could see his old friends again, so it was normal for him to be emotional. At noon that day, the group finally entered Stellar Night Fortress. This was a huge open space, with countless tents and simple and shabby huts. Like Majin City, this place was dirty and messy, with a stench filling the air. The ground was littered with piles of trash that no one cleaned, and there were large puddles that emitted a fishy smell. Lei Xingfeng looked in disbelief as he said, this is Stellar Night Fortress? My God, it's too stinky." Xian Yao also covered her nose and said, "Grandpa, brother, smelly." Lei Xingfeng laughed. "Lei Xingyao, Lei Xingyao, Lei Xingyao, and Lei Xingyao, Lei Xingyao, Lei Xingyao, Lei Xing." Shi Quan and Hong Chun were also surprised. This place was too chaotic. Just as they walked in, they saw a corpse on the side of the road, as if it had just been hacked to death. Elder Thunderstorm laughed. "Although this place is messy and stinky, but to some people, this is a good place. Hee hee, this is the outer area of Stellar Night Fortress. We need to pass through here and the forest in front. There should be a river in front." Lei Xingfeng observed for a while and said, Aren't there no normal people here?" Elder Thunderstorm laughed. "Of course, they're not normal people. They're all fugitives. Here, the government can't control them. Practitioners also can't control them. So this place is lawless. Here, if someone provokes you, the only way is to kill them. Of course, if you're not strong enough, then you'll be killed." Wen Yen said, "Senior, that's just a killing between normal people. It has nothing to do with us practitioners." Elder Thunderstorm said, "Practitioners are about the same. There's no difference. Only the strength they display is different, and practitioners have more killing power." Very quickly, the group of people passed through the messy camp. Along the way, no one dared to provoke them. Those who lived here, if they didn't have good eyesight, they would have died long ago. As long as they weren't blind, they would know that this group of people were not to be trifled with. The forest wasn't big. After walking for about 10 minutes, they arrived at a small river. A small stone bridge spanned the two sides. And on the other side, there was a building. This building was completely different. It was all made of brick and stone, very beautiful small buildings. The ground was also very clean, giving Lei Xingfeng the impression that the other side of the river was the slums, and this was the rich district. Lei Xingfeng said, "This is Stellar Night Fortress?" Elder Thunderstorm said, "Yes, this is the real Stellar Night Fortress. The people who live here are all practitioners." As he spoke, he turned his head and said, "Jean de Pang." Jean de Pang came over and said, "Senior, I know my subordinates will set up their tents in the forest and won't cross the bridge. Normal people weren't allowed to enter Stellar Night Fortress. If they had to enter, then they deserved to die." The old man Lei Bao said, "And we'll leave our sand Tua beasts here. Let Wei Zhong Long stay as well, and leave a few people to follow us. Their strength is too weak without anyone to guard. I reckon that when we return, nothing will be left behind." Jean de Pang nodded. Qi Tian Yao ordered the entire cleanup team to stay, these 1,000 Luan masters and Wan Luan Shi. Even in this place, they were a very strong force. Even a small sect wouldn't dare to casually make a move against them, not to mention the people outside the camp. Jean de Pang gave a few more words of advice before leaving. Under the lead of Elder Thunderstorm, they crossed the small stone bridge. Shi Quan, Hong Chun, Yen Yen, Qi Tian Yao, Jean de Pang, and Elder Thunderstorm, a total of 8 people walked into Stellar Night Fortress. Just as they crossed the small stone bridge, a dozen practitioners appeared. No one knew where they were hiding. Suddenly appearing, the leader of the mill wheel masters said, "Who are you looking for?" Elder Thunderstorm said with an indifferent expression, "I'm looking for Tai Long." Only then did Lei Xingfeng know that Stellar Night Fortress Tai Long was actually a person's name. The mill wheelmaster's face revealed a shocked expression, but he didn't dare to be careless, to be able to directly call out Stellar Night Fortress leader's name. This person definitely wasn't simple. He said, "Please tell us your name. We will pass the message." Elder Thunderstorm said, "Thunderstorm," and didn't say anything else. That mill wheelmaster bowed respectfully and turned to leave. The others were still staring at them, but they obviously didn't have any hostility. After a moment, a group of people ran over. The leader was an old man, laughing loudly from far away. "Old Brother Lei, old man, ha, you're finally here. I've been anxiously waiting for you." This was an old man with a healthy body. He was famous here. His strength was extremely strong, a true ring body, a true treasure Luanine master. He raised a large group of practitioners. Even in Shi Rong country, he was an overlord. Tai Long walked in front of Elder Thunderstorm, carefully looking at him. He laughed and opened his arms. The two hugged. Tai Long said, "Old brother, you've become younger. Look at me. My hair and beard are all white, ha." A granny with a head full of white hair walked out from behind Tai Long. She laughed. "Old man Lei, you're actually not dead yet." Thunderstorm looked carefully and couldn't help but shout, "No way, aren't you dead?" The granny scolded, "Damn old man, cursing me to death the moment we meet." Elder Thunderstorm laughed loudly. He seemed to be extremely happy. He said, "Good, good. I didn't expect old sister to still be so energetic. Ha, ha, ha." The granny said, "Of course, I'm not any worse than you. Damn old man, he left for 10 years without any news. What the hell is he doing? He's making us worried." Elder Thunderstorm sighed and said, "It's a long story. Come, come. A foam, Yao Yao, come and greet Grandpa and Grandma." Tai Long said, "Grandpa and Grandma? You have a grandson. How come I didn't know you had a wife?" Elder Thunderstorm said, "I don't have a wife to begin with." Tai Long didn't understand. No wife? Where did this grandson and granddaughter come from? Elder Thunderstorm said, "Damn, why are you talking so much nonsense? This is my grandson and granddaughter." Lei Xingfeng walked forward and said, "Greetings, Grandpa and Grandma." Lei Xian Yao said, Yao Yao greets Yi Grandma. Her voice was tender and soft. The granny nodded at Lei Xingfeng. Then her attention was attracted by Lei Xian Yao. She hugged Lei Xian Yao and said happily, I like this child. Wait, this child has a single Luan mark. LV Luan, this is incredible. Old man Lei, you actually have such an outstanding granddaughter. Tai Long was interested in Lei Xingfeng. He said, Aslan, you look at this child, a single lightning Luan mark. Wan Luan, sure, right? You're A Feng, right? How old are you? Lei Xingfeng said, Grandpa, I'm 16 years old. Everyone present was an expert. Of course they knew what a 16-year-old Wan Luan sure meant. Aslan hugged Lei Xingfeng and didn't let go. She sized up Lei Xingfeng before her attention was taken away by Lei Xian Yao again. She said, that was personally taught by old man Lei. A 16-year-old Wan Luan sure is indeed not bad, but I like this girl more. A skinny middle-aged man looked at them with a smile. He walked forward and said, Uncle Lei, this little nephew didn't disappoint you, but there are still a few seniors that haven't arrived yet. Elder Thunderstorm laughed. You run faster than me, hee. Yanwu, is your father coming this time? Yanwu shook his head. Father isn't coming. He specially sent me to listen to Uncle Lei's commands. Lei Xingfeng noticed that the surrounding people were very respectful to Yanwu. Even seniors like Tai Long and Aslan were very polite to Yanwu. He couldn't help but be curious. He didn't know that Yanwu was an expert who condensed 4 true ring bodies, a great true Luanine master. His father was even more powerful. Even Elder Thunderstorm had to call him elder brother. He was a truly powerful expert. Yanwu continued, Uncle Lei, my father told me to tell you that Dayton might come back. Thunderstorm's face changed. Chapter 65. Thunderstorm said, that old bastard also came? Yanwu said, and he brought a lot of people, all experts. My father told Uncle Lei to be careful. This person is hard to deal with. Thunderstorm said, I know, we've fought countless times after so many years. I don't know if this fellow has improved. Tai Long said, Old bro, Detong has been in the limelight recently. I heard that he broke through 10 years ago and condensed his 6th true ring body. He's a rare truine master. Thunderstorm said, 10 years ago? That means he's already stabilized his cultivation. How troublesome, that old bastard. His tone had a trace of resentment and unwillingness. Aslan said, Old Lei, don't bother with that fellow. If he dares to provoke us, we'll beat him up. Saying so, she revealed a fawning expression and said, Old Lei, that, old bro Lei, this child, I really like her. I want to take her as my disciple. What do you think? Thunderstorm hesitated, but before he could speak, Aslan became anxious and said, Old Lei. Lei Xingfeng's expression changed. He didn't want Aslan to take Lei Xingyao away, but he didn't know how to stop her. Thunderstorm said, Old sister, Yao Yao is still young. It's not time for her to train yet. Aslan hugged Lei Xingyao tightly and said, No, I want to take this disciple. When she grows up, who knows how many fellows will fight over her. I have to personally train her. I've searched for so many years and haven't found a single person with good talent, especially someone like Yao Yao. Her attitude was firm. Lei Bao pondered for a while. He was actually a bit moved. Even though Aslan had 4 true ring bodies, her position was extremely high, and her sect was extremely powerful. If Lei Xian Yao became her disciple, she wouldn't be at a disadvantage at all. Furthermore, Aslan's connections were extremely wide, and if she wanted some special things, it would be very easy for her to get them. Unlike him, who was alone and had enemies all over the world, Lei Xian Yao would be much better off if she followed Aslan. Lei Xingyao didn't seem to dislike Aslan. She didn't know what it meant to be a disciple. She only smiled and looked around. Thunderstorm couldn't make a decision at the moment. He said, "Old sister, let's wait until this matter ends, and Yao Yao must agree. If not, I can't agree." Aslan said, "Okay, in this period of time, I'll be in charge of Yao Yao's life." She understood that she couldn't be anxious. This kind of genius couldn't be forced. Tai Long said, "Old Brole, let's go." The old man Lei Bao nodded. "Okay, let's go in." "All right, we still have some people outside. Help us look after them." Among the normal people, 100 Luan masters' strength was considered powerful, but they weren't invincible. As for 1,000 Luan master, among the normal people, there were basically no opponents. Unless it was a special situation, they could win against any normal person. Thus, even if 1,000 Luan master stood at the peak of normal people, 1,000 Luan master was at the bottom of the practitioners, there were many thousand Luan masters who saw that they had no hope of advancing and were more willing to mingle with normal people. With their strength, normal people wouldn't offend them for no reason. Even those with money and power would be respectful to them. In Stellar Night Fortress, 1,000 Luan Master was the lowest level of residence, which meant that you had to reach the cultivation of 1,000 Luan Master to be able to live in Stellar Night Fortress. As for 100 Luan Master and a small Luan Master, they only had the right to enter Stellar Night Fortress. They didn't have the right to live. Tai Long walked over. When the practitioners saw him, they immediately retreated to the side and gave way to show their respect. Lei Xingfeng didn't understand. He asked softly, "Ayi, why does this place only take in practitioners?" Old Man Thunderstorm laughed. "What's the use of normal people coming? The reason why practitioners want to come to Stellar Night Fortress is because here they can get the guidance of experts. Here, experts will regularly organize lectures on cultivation, discussing cultivation problems." Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He said, "Lectures?" Lei Bao nodded and said, "That's right, lectures. The most important thing is that you can cultivate your own forces. All the cultivators here, after a period of observation, you can absorb some of them and conduct more advanced lectures. For those cultivators who don't belong to any sect, this is an excellent opportunity to improve their strength faster." Lei Xingfeng's heart moved. This was considered a school? Of course, there was no concept of a school here, but there were some functions of a school here. No wonder it could attract a large number of practitioners. Very quickly, the group passed through a residential area and entered a 3-story brick building. Tai Long led the way in front. He didn't stop in the small building, but passed through it. Behind the small building was another world. Behind it were many large courtyards. The structure was very interesting. It was like a beehive. Every courtyard was a hexagonal beehive, just that it took up a large area. There were short walls and trees separating them. They were all simple wooden bungalows. Lei Xingfeng noticed that every courtyard had quite a number of practitioners. They were either meditating alone or gathered together to discuss something. There were also dozens of practitioners sitting together. There were experts standing in the middle, giving lectures. This place gave Lei Xingfeng even greater surprise, because this place was more like the research institute of the university in his previous life. There was a thick atmosphere of learning and discussion. Tai Long led the group to the largest courtyard. In the middle of this courtyard, there was a huge sunshade shed. It was completely made of wood. It was very spectacular. It took up a few hundred square meters. It was more than 20 meters tall. It was completely empty. There were more than 100 huge round wooden pillars. There were even exquisite carvings on them. It was extremely cool inside. The wooden roof didn't completely cover the sky. There were many gaps. The sunlight leaked in. There were also wooden platforms on the ground. The height of the platforms were different. There were also many places surrounded by wooden railings. There was a pond in the open space. There were colorful fish swimming in the pond. After entering, even if Lei Xingfeng was experienced and knowledgeable in his previous life, he couldn't help but praise. This wooden shed was built too exquisitely. There were light gauze hanging around. It fluttered gently with the breeze. The wooden planks on the ground were polished smooth. "Welcome to Night Fortress." This building was called Night Fortress. It was also the place where Tai Long lived. In the middle of the building was a 3-story building. It was built in the middle of the wooden shed. It was also a very beautiful building. After entering the wooden building, Tai Long said, happily. Lei Xingfeng sighed in his heart. This building was very unique. It was like a huge umbrella. The handle of the umbrella was the wooden building. The surface of the umbrella was the wooden shed. The terrain under the umbrella was even more undulating. There were corridors with carved railings, fake mountains, and fish ponds. There were also flowers and plants, the light gauze fluttering. It was very beautiful. As for why it was called Night Fortress, he still didn't quite understand. After setting up the banquet, everyone sat down to eat. Only Jean de Pang was very excited. This was Tai Long Night Fortress's banquet. From the dishes served, Tai Long was also a person who liked exquisite food. All kinds of local specialties were served. Jean de Pang was full of praises. He felt that this trip was worth it. Tai Long also invited a few important people of Night Fortress. Most of them were experts with 1 or 2 true ring bodies. Lei Xingfeng counted. There were at least 5 or 6 of them. No wonder Night Fortress had such power in Shirong country. These people were enough to fight against a large sect. Lei Xingfeng didn't care about other people talking. He only brought Lei Xingyao to eat all kinds of strange food. And Aslan sat beside Lei Xingyao. She didn't want to relax and curry favor with Lei Xingyao. A talented disciple was hard to find. This she deeply understood. At her age, she hadn't found a disciple that she was satisfied with until now. There were many talented disciples in this world, but a talented disciple would often be crazily fought over the moment they were discovered, and no practitioner would be willing to give up a disciple with this kind of potential. Once a disciple with this kind of potential started to be nurtured, it was hard for others to interfere. For example, Lei Xingfeng was being nurtured by Thunderstorm. Even if others were stronger than Thunderstorm, they still couldn't interfere. So when Aslan saw Lei Xingyao, she almost never left her side, and Lei Xingyao was ignored by others. She stuck to Lei Xingfeng the most. As long as there was a chance, she would pull Lei Xingfeng, causing Aslan to have no choice but to follow the siblings. Aslan continuously placed dishes in front of Lei Xingyao, lovingly looking at the little fellow. The more she looked, the more satisfied she was. This little girl was definitely going to be her successor. She decided, even if she had to pester her, she would take this little girl as her disciple. She would fight anyone who dared to snatch her away, no matter what. She was a super expert with 4 true ring bodies. And she was also a famous super expert in making medicine. The medicine she made was hard to buy even with money. No one wanted to go against someone like Aslan. Not only was she an expert in making medicine, she was also a super expert in healing, an expert with the green wheel attribute. No matter where she went, she would be the center of attention, and was also the easiest to make friends with. In this group, Aslan had the most friends, and most of them were true experts. Lei Xingyao ate until her mouth was covered in oil. Aslan continuously used a handkerchief to wipe her mouth, her face full of smiles. It must be known that Aslan was an extremely fierce woman. Her personality was also extremely strong. Even the old man Thunderstorm didn't dare to go against her. Although the old man Thunderstorm was chatting with everyone, his attention would occasionally turn to the siblings. Seeing Aslan's appearance, he couldn't help but laugh. He didn't think that the strong Aslan would have such a gentle expression. Although the old man Thunderstorm's cultivation was the highest, he had always been a lone wolf. He didn't care about command or coordination. So this time, Tai Long was the leader, he was the commander. All the experts were commanded and coordinated by him. Chapter 66. Tai Long said, "This time we have old brother Lei, me, old brother Yin Wu, old sister Aslan, old brother Qi Xian, old brother Hong Chen, and our night stronghold 6 experts, 12 true masters. Other than that, the experts old brother Lei invited have not arrived yet. I estimate that there will be a total of 15 to 18 true masters, enough to fight for the hidden Luan space. At least we will be able to get the biggest share, even if the 3 biggest powers of Shirong country act. we will still have the advantage. What needs to be discussed is how to split it. Should we follow the old rules or set a new one? The old rules were to split it according to the amount of effort and need. Old Man Thunderstorm said, I don't mind. Aslan said, I'll give my share to Yao Yao. Yenwu laughed. Old Aunt, you haven't even taken in a disciple, and you're already trying to please little sister? Aslan and his father were good friends. So even if his cultivation was the same as Aslan's, he still had to call her old aunt. Aslan said, What do you mean by please? Yao Yao is my baby. She hugged Xian Yao and giggled. Yao Yao, are you my baby? Xian Yao gave her face and said, Yes, Granny Aslan. Aslan smiled. Our Yao Yao is so sensible. Yao Yao, don't call me Granny in the future. Call me Master. Do you understand? She started to entice the little girl, who knew that Xian Yao would not fall for it. She crisply said, You said Master is not to be casually called. Granny Aslan. Aslan was still not angry. She hugged Xian Yao and said, Yao Yao, why are you so smart? I like it. Anyways, whatever Xian Yao said, she liked it, making Thunderstorm and Lei Xingfeng speechless. Yenwu laughed. Little sister, come with me. I'll bring you to find an even more powerful master. How about it? Aslan instantly exploded. Yenwu, you sure have guts, daring to poach my people. Without waiting for Yenwu to speak, Xian Yao said, I won't go with you. When Aslan heard this, she laughed. All her anger disappeared. Yenwu asked curiously, Why? Lei Xian Yao said, Brother said not to go with strange men. Yenwu was choked speechless. Aslan laughed and said, That's right. We won't go with a stinky stranger. Xian Yao nodded vigorously. The old man Leibao said, Old sis, are you serious? Aslan said very seriously, Of course, I am absolutely serious. Don't worry. When Yao Yao comes to my place, I will do my best to nurture her. I will not let her suffer any grievances. Thunderstorm pondered for a moment and said, She's still too young. How about we wait until she's 15? Lei Xingfeng also did not wish to let Yao Yao go now. He had brought her up single-handedly, and he was very reluctant to let her leave. However, he also knew that if Yao Yao followed Aslan, it would definitely be better than following him. He hesitated and did not know what to do. Aslan said sincerely, You also know that if Yao Yao follows me now, there are many things she can learn. It will definitely be much better than when she's 15 or 16. Thunderstorm, of course, understood this. There were many benefits to being nurtured from a young age. Just like Lei Xingfeng, there were many times when he did not know the benefits of doing so. However, as long as he did it, when he started to train, the benefits would gradually appear. Let's talk about it later. Let's discuss how to split it first. Thunderstorm changed the topic. Yenwu said, Let's wait for everyone to arrive first. It seems a bit early to discuss this now. They should be here soon. Tai Lang thought about it and agreed. He said, All right, let's not discuss this for now. He then said, The location of the hidden Luan space. I already know. There are many people waiting there, but it's not time to come out yet. Yenwu said, Have we sent people? Tai Lang said, Yes, I have already sent a few small teams. They will report back as soon as they have any news. At this time, a Wan Luanshi came in. He walked to Tai Lang's side and whispered a few words in his ear. Tai Lang said, What? How dare they? Thunderstorm had already stood up. He said, How many people came? Lei Xingfeng raised his head and whispered, What's wrong? Aslan said, Your people seem to have been attacked. Jean Depang immediately panicked. He stood up and said, Who is it? Shi Quan understood in his heart that the matter of them killing people was exposed. Hong Chen's face changed slightly. However, he was not very worried. The people here were extremely strong. There should not be too big of a problem. Tai Lang said in a low voice. How many of them came? That Wan Luan sure said, there are 7 true masters, over 100 mill-wheel masters, and many thousand Luan masters, and Wan Luan sure. Tai Lang said, how many sects are there? That Wan Luan sure said, more than 10 small sections. They are the ones that are training in our territory. They said, many of their disciples were killed. Tai Lang said, what does their disciples being killed have to do with my guests? Fuck, let them in. They dare to detain my guest subordinates. How dare they? He felt that he had lost face. Thunderstorm said indifferently, if my people are hurt, brother, don't interfere. Tai Lang's heart went cold. He knew the old man Thunderstorm's temper and personality. This guy was someone who would pick on anyone who did not provoke him. Now, this group of people who did not know what was good for them actually came to provoke him. It was scary just thinking about it. Some people should not be provoked, and Thunderstorm was definitely one of them. Brother, don't worry. I will handle it. Tai Lang had many connections with these small sections. He did not want Thunderstorm to make a move. Once he made a move, it would be hard to say how many of these people would be able to survive. Jean de Pang could not wait any longer. This guy placed a lot of importance on his subordinates. Last time when 2 of them died, he was already furious. He said, I will go take a look. Shi Quan and Hong Chen were also worried about their subordinates and said, we will go too. Thunderstorm, of course, could not stay out of this. He said, let's go together. Although he was not the commander, his position was the highest, and his strength was also the strongest. Thus, his words still carried a lot of weight. Tai Lang said, all right, let's go together. Saying so, he softly ordered his subordinates and brought everyone out. Very quickly, everyone arrived at the bridge of the river. The people of Stellar Night Fortress and the experts of the small sects were in a standoff. Both sides did not give way to each other. The atmosphere was very tense. Jean de Pang's subordinates, Shi Quan's subordinates, and a few San Tua beasts were all captured. A few thousand Luan masters and Wan Luan Shi were also tied up. A few of them were beaten black and blue. Tai Lang took the lead and separated the crowd. He walked to the bridge and saw the people who were tied up. His face immediately became gloomy and said, let them go. Lei Xingfeng followed. Lei Xingfeng was carried by Aslan. Lei Xingfeng noticed that there were many people on the other side. Among them, there were 7 people in the lead. Each of them had a stable qi and a rather terrifying qi. With one look, one could tell that they were people of power. Not only were their cultivations shocking, but they had also been in a high position for a long time. That kind of pressure was rather strong. Thunderstorm stood behind Tai Lang. It was not that he did not dare to go forward, but he had to give Tai Lang some face and let him handle it. If Tai Lang did not handle it well, then he would step out. Right now, he was not in a hurry to step out. This was also brought about by his recovery. After tens of years of training, his personality had become much more stable. He was no longer like a firecracker who would explode at the slightest touch. Tai Lang was also a little uneasy. He was afraid that Thunderstorm would not be able to control himself and attack. He had interacted with the old man, Thunderstorm, for a period of time before. During that period of time, he felt that it was abnormally exciting. A lot of things happened inexplicably. There were even practitioners who only glanced at Thunderstorm and revealed a trace of disdain. He could directly beat them half to death. As for those practitioners who provoked him, they did not even have a chance to live. But it was different this time. When Thunderstorm arrived at the scene, he did not say a word. He only squinted his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking about. This not only made Tai Lang feel relieved, Even Yen Wu and Aslan felt relieved. They all knew that Thunderstorm had a bad temper. Who would have thought that after meeting him this time? This guy actually became much calmer. When the 7 true masters saw Tai Lang, their angry expressions softened. The leading old man said, "Brother Tai Lang, I am unable to release them for the time being." Tai Lang asked, "Why?" The old man said, "Because we lost 80 to 90 trial disciples. I suspect that it was them who did it." When he said this, Chi Quan, Hong Chen, and Jean Depang looked at each other and let out a sigh of relief. Without concrete evidence, they did not care at all. In fact, even if there was concrete evidence, they would not care. However, that would cause a large-scale battle. Although Tai Lang did not know what happened, but when he heard that so many disciples died, he was shocked. However, he did not think that it was old Thunderstorm who did it. It was illogical. He thought that if these sects offended Thunderstorm, according to his temper, none of them would be able to live. Why would he come here to capture people? Yen Wu said in a low voice, "You suspect? You only suspect, and you dare to capture people?" The alliance of 20 small sects represented a very large force. Tai Lang felt a headache. Using force to suppress them was the worst-case scenario. Just as he was about to speak, his shoulder was lightly tapped by old Thunderstorm. Then, Thunderstorm took a few steps forward and walked in front of everyone. Old Thunderstorm said calmly, "Everyone slap themselves 10 times. Let go of my men, and I will spare your lives." The other party was stunned. Where did this crazy old man come from? Didn't he see that there were 7 true masters and countless experts here? These words were too much of a bully. Slap themselves 10 times? Who did this old man think he was? After a few breaths of time, the group of people suddenly burst into laughter. Someone said sarcastically, "Is this old man crazy?" Someone else said loudly, "Old man, slap yourself 100 times. Ha ha, I will spare your lives. Ha ha." Old Thunderstorm's lips curled into a sarcastic smile. Tai Lang and Yen Wu's mouth twitched. The two of them secretly cursed. They knew Thunderstorm's temper very well. When the old man revealed such a sarcastic smile, it meant that he was about to make a move. Chapter 67. The smile on Thunderstorm's face grew bigger and bigger. An overbearing aura suddenly spread out. Tai Long was complaining in his heart. He quickly went up and pulled Tai Long. He said softly, "Old Brother Thunderstorm, this matter. Let me handle it. Hee, if I handle it. And you're not satisfied, then you can step up. How about that?" He looked at Thunderstorm with a little unease. If Thunderstorm was still the same as before, he would have rejected without hesitation. This time, Thunderstorm didn't insist. He thought for a while and nodded. "All right, I'll wait for you to handle it. Remember, don't let my people suffer." Yen Wu looked at the old man with a little surprise. This time when he met Thunderstorm again, he noticed that the old man had obviously changed. Aslan also felt that it was a little strange. She obviously knew the old man's temper. She didn't expect Thunderstorm to be able to keep his composure. Tai Long immediately made his decision. No matter if the old man Lei Bao's group killed or not, he had to side with them and suppress these small sects. So he said, "Which one of you saw them kill?" The 7 true masters were speechless because they used the desert hounds to follow them. They could only prove that this group came all the way here, and all the training disciples along the way disappeared. No one saw this group kill. If this group's strength was average, then they wouldn't even need evidence. They could just kill them all and take revenge. But this group was in Stellar Night Fortress. They didn't dare to kill. They only dared to capture the people left outside. But they didn't expect that there were people from Stellar Night Fortress in the group. So they couldn't force a confession. Tai Long had already brought people over. Tai Long said, "Since you didn't see them kill, why did you capture them? Let them go immediately." Thunderstorm slightly probed the other party. He noticed that the strongest of the seven was a true master with 3 true ring bodies. This strength was a terrifying force to normal cultivators, but to him, it was not worth mentioning, but this was already the top strength of more than 20 small sects. 7 true masters came out at once. It could be seen that this matter was taken seriously. This person who had condensed 3 true ring bodies was the Great Eagle Sect's Tangshur, the Great Eagle Sect's inner sect Grand Elder. This time, he was the leader. Tangshur had a bad feeling. He was actually very familiar with Tai Long and could be considered Tai Long's friend. Of course, there were also differences between friends. His relationship with Tai Long was definitely not comparable to Elder Thunderstorm. He said, "Senior Tai Long." He originally wanted to call him Brother Tai Long, but when he saw Tai Long's serious face, he changed it to Senior Tai Long. "Senior Tai Lang, we can't let them go. I need to interrogate them. If they aren't related to the murder, we will apologize and compensate." Tai Long cursed, "Bullshit. Even if Thunderstorm didn't agree to it, he wouldn't agree to it either. He knew what these people were capable of. Even if they didn't kill anyone, they could make them admit that they did. No one could resist the interrogation of a practitioner. It would be a fate worse than death." Tangshur straightened his back and stared at Tai Long. "Senior." Tai Long waved his hand and said, "Don't King talk about interrogation. They aren't people you can interrogate. Unless you bring out the evidence of their murder, I can negotiate. But if you want to use force, I won't allow it." Tangshur felt a burst of anxiety in his heart. If he could not find the murderer, then the entire alliance of the small sects would collapse. He had to find the murderer in order to quell everyone's anger, but Stellar Night Fortress was not something he could offend. He was helpless to the extreme. After thinking for a moment, he said, "We need to discuss this." Tai Long nodded. "All right, you guys discuss. But I hope there will be a result soon." Tangshur brought the other 6 true masters and retreated to the other side of the bridge. The 7 of them started to discuss. Soon, the 7 of them started to quarrel. Thunderstorm crossed his arms and looked at them coldly. Jean Depang and Shi Quan also looked cold, but Lei Xingfeng noticed that Jean Depang's eyes flashed with anger. Jean Depang was very smart. He knew that he wasn't strong enough. If Elder Thunderstorm and the others weren't here, he wouldn't be able to fight back. Even if he was a military officer of Shi Rong Nation, it would be useless. At this moment, Xian Feng deeply understood the benefits of having absolute strength in this world. It was a type of power that could suppress others. Tangshur and the others quarreled for less than 10 minutes. He brought another 6 people over. He said, "I need to interrogate." Tai Long secretly sighed. He said, "The people in this group are my seniors. If you really want to interrogate, then, as the host, I can't interfere too much. Then I won't ask any more." He suddenly let go. He turned around and said, "Brother, do as you see fit." Thunderstorm nodded. "No problem, I'll do it." Tangshur's heart suddenly turned cold. He braced himself and said, "Senior, if we made a mistake, we'll apologize and compensate." Thunderstorm said, "Aslan, you'll be responsible for Yao Yao and Afeng's safety. Is that okay?" Aslan smiled. "Don't worry. I'll be responsible for the safety of these 2 children." She waved her hand and called Lei Xingfeng over. She carried Lei Xingyao and retreated a few steps. Thunderstorm said again, "Yanwu, you don't have to do anything. Just protect my people. They aren't strong enough." And Shi Quan, "Hongchun, you don't have to do anything either. Just help Yanwu." Yanwu smiled. "Uncle, don't worry. I'm fine." Thunderstorm nodded. "Very good." He then said to Tangshur, "Little guy, don't say that I'm overbearing. I'll give you one more chance. Let go of our people." Tang Shi's face turned green. This was too overbearing. He didn't even discuss with them, and directly asked to let them go. He gritted his teeth and said, "We can't let them go without an answer." He was determined to be tough to the end. He believed that the old man Thunderstorm wouldn't dare to do anything. Facing the alliance of 20 small sects, he believed that even if Thunderstorm was a senior, he wouldn't dare to do anything. It was a pity that he didn't know Thunderstorm's temper. He also didn't know how powerful Thunderstorm was. Thunderstorm smiled. "Interesting. If I said this a few decades ago, no one would dare to refute me. Now, not only do people dare to refute me, I even have the patience to ask repeatedly, 'AI, I'm old, I'm old.'" The surroundings were silent. Everyone silently looked at the old man Thunderstorm. Only Tai Long, Aslan, and Yen Wu's hearts were in their mouths. Even if they were experts with 4 or 5 true ring bodies, they still felt a chill down their spines. It was the first time that Lei Xingfeng saw Yi acting like this. He was very curious. He had never seen Yi acting so strangely. That kind of feeling, it was a bit like the world is changing too fast. "I can't keep up anymore." Tang Shi wanted to say something, but he suddenly realized that the old man Thunderstorm had risen into the sky. His heart almost stopped beating. He suddenly understood and couldn't help but shout, "Stop!" But it was already too late. The old man Thunderstorm was like a flash of lightning as he killed his way to the other side of the river. He directly crashed into the crowd of cultivators below the true master level. In an instant, countless lightning danced and crackled. In an instant, hundreds of people fell to the ground. The scariest thing wasn't the twitching people on the ground, but the captives who were tied up. They were completely fine. Although they were tied up, they were still standing. The jumping lightning spread rapidly. The people on the other side of the bridge only saw a glaring light flashing in front of them and heard a series of screams. Tang Shi led the other true masters and rushed over the bridge. His heart was cold. Before the old man Thunderstorm made his move, he only felt that this old man was unfathomable. But when the old man made his move, he was completely shocked, because the old man flew into the sky. This meant that the old man was at least an expert with 6 true ring bodies. Even some big sects might not have an expert of this level. It was too shocking. A true master with 6 true ring bodies was called a true master. If it was a true master with 7 true ring bodies, then it would be a true mad master. They were all terrifying existences, and the old man Thunderstorm was at least a true master, or even a true mad master. How could they fight? His face was pale with regret. He actually provoked such an expert. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that he was courting death. No wonder Tai Long tried his best to stop him. Not to mention Tang Shi. Even Tai Long couldn't. Tang Shi was a hoodlum. He shouted, "Senior, stop! We admit defeat. Stop!" The old man Thunderstorm shouted, "Do you think I'll stop just because you told me to?" Saying that, he rushed towards the 7 people. Tang Shi didn't dare to fight back. The 7 of them stood still. At this time, Tai Long had no choice but to go up and stop him. Brother, they admit defeat." Only then did the old man Thunderstorm stop. He said, "You don't know what's good for you. You only admit defeat when I make a move. A bunch of idiots." Tang Shi was sweating profusely. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. This old man was too abnormal. Who knew that he had such terrifying strength? He watched as the thick electric arc almost hit him. Only after Tai Long shouted did it disappear. The ground was filled with twitching practitioners. This time, the old man Thunderstorm held back. He didn't kill anyone. They were all knocked down by the electric arc. After all, He knew that because of a misunderstanding, he killed so many people. If he killed them all this time, it would be too much. Tang Shi's eyesight wasn't bad. He only took a glance and knew that the old man held back. If not, even if he killed them all, he wouldn't be able to take revenge. The opponent was too strong, to the point that it made people despair. Tang Shi and the others understood that even if the death of the previous disciples was related to this team, they wouldn't be able to take revenge. Moreover, this was the first time they thought that it would be best if they weren't related. Even if they were, they would find a way to deny it. In other words, these people didn't kill their disciples. Even if they killed them, they would pretend that they didn't kill them. Thunderstorm despised these people. According to his temper, these people were all F**king cowards. He said, "Remember, apologize to my subordinates and compensate them." Chapter 68. Tai Long laughed bitterly. Words were useless. They had to wait for Thunderstorm to make a move before they gave in. These people were F**king candles. They couldn't be lit unless they were lit. Thunderstorm said, "Fatty, you stay and deal with it. Remember, if you're not satisfied, tell me. Understand?" Jean Depang only felt one word: awesome, awesome to the bone. 7 true masters, yet they didn't even have the courage to fight. He couldn't believe his eyes. This was too exaggerated. All the true masters he had met before were all arrogant. He didn't expect that there would be times when a true master would be a coward. Yes, Elder." He rushed out excitedly. Thunderstorm said, "Let's go, we're going back." This matter was resolved by Lei Bao with his overwhelming strength, and it did not cause the slightest ripple. Tang Shi and the others sincerely apologized and compensated with a lot of gold rings. Jean Depang didn't ask for anything from them. He understood that they had killed their way here. Even though it was a misunderstanding, they had still killed people. Thus, he didn't want to cause more trouble and just let it go. Elder Thunderstorm and the others temporarily stayed in Stellar Night Fortress. Lei Xingfeng liked the umbrella-shaped night fortress the most. Only on that night did he understand why it was called Night Fortress. When night fell, the starlight and the candlelight in the fortress intertwined. It was definitely a rare sight. Since he was Thunderstorm's grandson, he had the right to stay in the wooden building in the middle of Night Fortress. Moreover, he stayed in a room on the 3rd floor. As for Lei Xianyao, she was always by Aslan's side. Perhaps Lei Xianyao had never experienced such meticulous and loving care before. Aslan simply wanted to pamper Lei Xianyao to the heavens. She was a treasure to the extreme. Lei Xianyao was not used to it at the start, but in the end, she enjoyed it. Very quickly, she started calling Aslan master. She was only a little girl and had never seen such deliberate pleasing and pampering. She quickly became familiar with Aslan. Because Lei Xianyao liked to be with Lei Xingfeng, she would always go to her brother's room. Of course, Aslan followed closely. In just a few days, not only did Lei Xianyao and Aslan become closer, even Lei Xingfeng and Aslan became familiar with each other. The two often chatted together. Using this chance, Xianfeng asked a few questions about cultivation. Every true master expert had their own set of things, as well as their experience in the outside world, the local customs, the famous sects and sects of the continent, as well as the influence of each region. All of these were things Xianfeng asked about. Aslan also noticed the influence Lei Xingfeng had on Lei Xianyao. She also saw the little girl's attachment to her brother. Later, she found out that Lei Xianyao was brought up by Lei Xingfeng. Ever since she was weaned, he had always taken care of Lei Xianyao. The two of them had a very close relationship. Lei Xingfeng was like a substitute for a parent. When Aslan understood this, she became more and more polite to Lei Xingfeng. Adding on Lei Xingfeng's mature and meticulous thinking, she had a very good impression of the two siblings. Aslan was proficient in making medicine. She had reached the level of a master in the use of various plants and animals' blood essence. She had also reached the level of a master. Intentionally or unintentionally, she began to impart this knowledge. Of course, her goal was to attract Lei Xianyao's interest. In the end, it was Lei Xingfeng who was more interested. Lei Xingfeng was a child, so it was hard for her to be interested in this kind of thing. However, it was different for Lei Xingfeng. He knew the importance of this kind of knowledge, so once he came into contact with it, he began to ask for guidance. It was a pity that he did not have the green Luan attribute. Even if he learned the knowledge of making medicine, he would not be able to reach the level of a master. However, even so, Lei Xingfeng continued to learn. This made Aslan sigh. She had seen many 10-year-old children who only knew how to play but were unwilling to study seriously. There were very few children like Lei Xingfeng who would take the initiative to learn. This knowledge of making medicine opened Lei Xingfeng's eyes. This was completely different from the medicine of his previous life. Although he could not make high-level medicine, he could make simple ones. The most important knowledge for him was to differentiate between useful plants, minerals, animals, blood, and all kinds of strange things. There were many things that if one did not learn the relevant knowledge, they would not even know were useful, especially rare plants, animal blood, precious ores, and high-level purification methods. Even if he learned these, it was already worth it. Aslan was very attentive in her teaching. She even gave Lei Xingfeng a piece of star python skin that she had recorded all kinds of materials. She hoped that Lei Xingfeng could see her hard work. She was not only good to the little girl, she was also good to her brother. Lei Xiangyao was very smart, and a child's mind was very pure. She could feel who was good to her and who was hostile. Aslan's efforts were not in vain. Lei Xiangyao gradually accepted her, which made Aslan very happy. For 10 consecutive days, Lei Xingfeng and Lei Xiangyao did not leave the house. The main reason was that Lei Xingfeng did not want to leave the house. He was working hard to learn new knowledge. The old man Thunderstorm was very happy. He even specially came to thank Aslan for this. Aslan also gave Lei Xingfeng 10 high-level medicines. They were mainly used for healing. These medicines were very precious and could be used to save lives at crucial times. In this period of time, Stellar Night Fortress also welcomed a few true masters. They were all Old Man Thunderstorm's friends. One of them was a middle-aged man who was actually a true Eam master who had condensed 6 true ring bodies. The fire wheel attribute was the most common attribute in this world. However, it was rare to see someone who had cultivated it to the level of a true Eam master. The fire wheel attribute's attack power was very strong. Especially when it reached a high level, it could be used to its fullest potential. This person was called Gulu. He was a red-faced man with a head of rarely seen fiery red hair. It was said that he used to be like a normal person with a head of black hair. However, after condensing 4 true ring bodies, his hair started to change, from brown hair to fiery red hair, and after condensing 6 true ring bodies, even his eyebrows became red. There were also 2 other experts with 4 true ring bodies. They were both very old women. One was called Anyaden, and the other was called Tai Popo. Although Anyaden's appearance was old, she was dressed very flirtatiously. Her face was covered with a thick layer of white powder. This was the first time Lei Xiangyao saw her. She immediately hid in Aslan's embrace and did not dare to show her face. This was because this woman had laughed at her. That blood-red mouth had scared the little girl. Tai Popo was also dressed strangely. On a hot day, she wore a set of precious fur. It was said that she came from an extremely cold place. Her entire body was filled with yin qi. Even though this place was close to the desert, it could not hide the coldness. The three of them were all strange people. This made Lei Xingfeng feel strange. What kind of friends did Yi make? None of them were normal. Only Tai Long, Yan Wu, and Aslan were normal. These few days, Lei Xingfeng had been targeted by Yaden. Ever since she discovered that Lei Xingfeng had a single lightning attribute Luen mark, she started to pester Thunderstorm, wanting to take Lei Xingfeng away. This angered the old man so much that he scolded her. However, this woman's skin was extremely thick. She did not care at all. She kept moving in front of Lei Xingfeng, talking nonstop, showing off all kinds of strange items in an attempt to attract Lei Xingfeng's attention. This made Lei Xingfeng afraid. He hid beside Aslan. In his eyes, and Yaden was a madwoman. She was also not a lightning attribute practitioner. It was said that one of her martial uncles was a lightning attribute expert. This caused Thunderstorm to have no choice but to warn Yaden not to disturb Lei Xingfeng. And Yaden could not beat the old man Thunderstorm. She could only temporarily stop her harassment. According to her, Lei Xingfeng would one day know how powerful her martial uncle was. At that time, he would come and beg her. Lei Xingfeng could not be bothered with this woman. He made use of his time and stayed by Aslan's side, studying hard. Lei Xingfeng seemed to understand her brother's anxious feelings. Hence, she started to curry favor with Aslan. She acted coquettishly and acted cute, causing Aslan to have no resistance at all. She imparted everything that she could teach to Lei Xingfeng. As for how much Lei Xingfeng could understand and learn, that would depend on Lei Xingfeng's comprehension ability. Today, Tai Long gathered everyone to the wooden house in the middle of Night Stronghold. Lei Xingfeng and Lei Xingyao also followed Aslan. In the huge living room, there were 2 rows of tables and chairs. Everyone sat down. Lei Xingfeng sat behind the old man Thunderstorm. Lei Xingyao was still carried by Aslan. During this period of time, Lei Xingfeng had gotten used to being carried by Aslan. Tai Long said, "There's news. Let's discuss when we should depart." The old man Thunderstorm said, "Has a hidden Luen space appeared?" Tai Long said, "It has already appeared. Many people have already rushed over. However, up until now, we haven't found a decent expert." The old man Thunderstorm said, "Experts will appear. Let's see if this hidden Luen space has any value. I hope that it's an ancient hidden Luen space. Only then will there be truly good things. It's really worth looking forward to. It's been a long time since a decent hidden Luen space appeared." Tai Long said, "That's right. In the past few decades, I've heard of many hidden Luen spaces appearing. However, most of them didn't find anything. I hope this time it will give us a surprise." Everyone discussed fervently. Everyone knew the value of an ancient hidden Luen space. If they were to find something special, it would be of great help to their training. No practitioner could resist the temptation of a hidden Luen space. There were too many strange things that appeared inside, especially things that didn't belong to this era. There were also ancient training methods that might not be suitable, but it didn't stop them from absorbing useful information. However, once an ancient hidden Luen space appeared, it would immediately attract large amounts of high-level practitioners. If there weren't high-level practitioners leading the way, low-level practitioners wouldn't be able to obtain anything. They might even lose their lives because of it. Tai Long said, "I also received a piece of news that everyone might be interested in." The old man Thunderstorm said, "What news?" Chapter 69. A smile appeared on Tai Long's face as he said the hidden Luen space was supposed to appear 2 months later, but after careful observation, it might appear in the next 10 days, which means we are the closest group. The closer they were, the more chances they had, and with the gathering of Old Man Thunderstorm, they had a huge advantage and were incomparably strong. Gula said, "Since it's like this, let's prepare and set off as soon as possible." Thunderstorm also agreed, and the first group to succeed will definitely have the greatest rewards, but also the greatest danger. All right, let's set off early. Since there were many experts coming this time, Tai Long didn't bring many people. His base still needed experts to guard it, and they couldn't all leave, so he only brought a few mill-wheel drivers and Wan Luan-Shur, mainly to transport supplies. Practitioners rarely put things like food into the hidden Luan space, unless it was a special situation. To practitioners, the hidden Luan space was a gift from the heavens. They definitely wouldn't put random things in it. Of course, Lei Xingfeng never had this concept. He felt that the hidden Luan space was a moving warehouse. It was best used to transport supplies. The only thing that gave him a headache was that Wan Luan-Shur's hidden Luan space was too small. If he put too much food, the space wouldn't be enough. The people going this time were mostly true masters. The others like Jin Depang, Yen, and Lei Xingfeng were also mixed in the group. As for Lei Xingyao, she was entrusted to Tai Long by Thunderstorm and stayed in Stellar Night Fortress. Aslan was worried and gave up this rare opportunity to stay in the fortress. She didn't want anything to happen to Lei Xingyao, and just because of this, Lei Xingfeng approved of her. It wasn't that he didn't want to bring Lei Xingyao along, but that place was too dangerous, and Lei Xingyao hadn't trained yet. She was still young. If something happened, no matter if it was Thunderstorm or Lei Xingfeng, they wouldn't be able to take it. Luckily, Aslan took the initiative to stay, allowing Thunderstorm and Lei Xingfeng to be at ease. The hidden Luan space appeared in the desert from Stellar Night Fortress. One needed to pass through a Luan point. Using the ancient Luan passage could save a portion of the journey. Thus, they only needed 10 days to reach their destination. On the endless sand dunes, Tai Long and his group brought dozens of sand tuo beasts with them. Most of them were water bags. The desert lacked water the most. Large amounts of water were consumed every day. Of course, if there was no water, cultivators could still condense water. For example, Tai Popo was an ice will type cultivator. However, unless it was a last resort, it was impossible to ask an expert with 4 true ring bodies to do such a simple task. Xian Feng sat on the back of the sand tuo beast. The scorching sun made him feel extremely uncomfortable. He glanced at Tai Popo from time to time. He couldn't imagine that even at this place, Tai Popo was still covered in thick fur. She didn't even have a single drop of sweat. As long as one got close to her, they would be able to feel a wave of cold air, causing a faint mist to float around her, giving off an extremely strange feeling. And Enyaden would occasionally go to Lei Xingfeng's side, taking the opportunity to talk to him. She still hadn't given up. After these few days of contact, Lei Xingfeng realized that Enyaden didn't have any ill intentions, and gradually he stopped avoiding her. Thousand Sand Barrier. This was the place where the hidden Luan space appeared. The climate here was complex. There would often be extreme weather like sandstorms. Even the desert barbarians didn't dare to come to the Thousand Sand Barrier. Those who could reach here were practitioners and high-level practitioners. To normal people, this place was a dangerous place. Once they entered, they wouldn't be able to come out. After entering the Thousand Sand Barrier, the temperature rose sharply. Lei Xingfeng noticed Tai Popo. Her originally pale and cold face actually had a tinge of red. According to Lei Xingfeng's estimation, the temperature now was at least 60 to 70 degrees. The group had no choice but to activate their protection to resist the hot weather. Lei Xingfeng activated his ring armor and immediately felt much cooler. In the group, many people who trained in Hualunli had a comfortable expression on their faces. Those with the Hualunli attribute were very suited to this place. Actually, this place was more suitable for those with the light attribute, just that there were very few practitioners with the light attribute, even rarer than those with the lightning attribute. Luckily, there weren't any normal people in the group. Just this temperature alone was enough to kill a normal person after a while. Lei Xingfeng sat on the sand Tua beast, his gaze sweeping around. In fact, other than the sand dunes, there was nothing else. The sand dunes were warped by the heat flow, a piece of gold, a piece of fire, without a trace of green, extremely monotonous. Suddenly, Lei Xingfeng exclaimed, "Damn! Sea Market Lit Pavilion." And Yaden was not far from Lei Xingfeng. She was also riding on a sand Tua beast. Hearing this, she asked, "What's a sea market lit pavilion?" This world didn't have the concept of a sea market lit pavilion. The so-called sea market lit pavilion was the refraction of light from afar, appearing in mid-air on the sea surface and in the desert. Lei Xingfeng didn't really see a sea market lit pavilion in his previous life, but in his previous life, all kinds of information were sent explosively. He could easily obtain countless knowledge. It was different here. The knowledge here was passed down by word of mouth. Only practitioners had their own writing system and recording methods. Lei Xingfeng stared blankly at the scene in midair. Only he found that this sea market lit pavilion was very blurry. He couldn't see clearly what it was. Tai Lang happily said, "Ha! It's here. It's really the sign of a hidden Luan space." "Old brother Lei, old brother Gulu, can you tell what kind of hidden Luan space it is?" "It's too big. I've never seen such a big shadow. It's a pity it's too blurry." Thunderstorm and Gulu stared into the distance. After a while, both of them shook their heads, expressing that they couldn't see clearly. And Yaden said, "Let's go take a look." Lei Xingfeng thought to himself, if it was a sea market lit pavilion, then they would never be able to reach there, because it wasn't a real scene, it was a refraction of images. The team walked towards the strange scene in midair. As they moved forward, Lei Xingfeng shockingly found that the scene was getting bigger and clearer. He suddenly understood. Some of the phenomena in this world couldn't be explained by the knowledge of his previous life. The scene in front of them was definitely not a sea market lit pavilion. "There's someone." The person who went to scout ahead reported. Tai Lang asked, "Who? How many people?" That person said, "There's a dozen people. There's also 50 sand Tua beasts. They're also walking forward." Tai Lang nodded. He knew that the people who could reach here must be practitioners. They must be people trying to obtain the hidden Lun space. He said, "Continue to monitor. We'll continue forward. Ignore those people for now." Yenwu said, "I'll go take a look. If there's a conflict, we won't know anything." Tai Lang said, "That's good. I hope it's Naughty Dayton. But I don't think he's that fast." Yen Wu rode on the sand Tua beast, bringing 2 mill wheelmasters with him. He was strong enough to protect himself and his subordinates. Seeing the 3 of them leave, the others continued on their way. Lei Xingfeng said, "Grandma Dan, can you tell what kind of hidden Luan space this is?" And Yaden said, "Don't call me Grandma Dan. Call me Great-Grandma Dan." Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but smile bitterly, thinking, "Great-Grandma Dan? That's too fucking ugly. Sigh, this woman is definitely not normal." He said helplessly, "All right, Great-Grandma Dan." And Yaden immediately became happy, saying, "That's right, Afong, even your grandpa can't tell what kind of hidden Luan space it is. How can I?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Great-Grandma Dan, what kind of hidden Luan space do you hope it is?" He was bored, so he could only talk nonsense with Yaden. And Yaden said, "Of course I hope it's an ancient hidden Luan space, and the higher level the better, and it'd be best if there are countless treasures inside. Then I'll be rich." Once she laughed, wrinkles would appear on her face. Luckily, Lei Xingfeng was looking afar and didn't notice. The higher the level of the hidden Luan space, the more powerful the dead cultivator was. No one could live forever, but ancient cultivators could live for 1,000 years or even a few thousand years. It wasn't hard for them to live for 1,000 years, unlike now. It was really rare for people to live for 1,000 years. The hidden Luan space left behind by the ancient practitioners is a treasure that all modern practitioners want to get. Who knows what kind of strange treasures are inside? This kind of hidden Lune space to practitioners is a fatal attraction, even if they don't hesitate to kill. Even with Old Man Thunderstorm's strength, he didn't dare to come alone. He had to invite a group of strong friends. A lone traveler is definitely looking for death. Once they found something of value, they would definitely be besieged by countless cultivators. Moreover, they would be besieged by high-level cultivators. Lei Bao was well aware of this. He had once relied on his powerful strength and thought that he could act alone. In the end, he was beaten to the point where he had to flee like a rat. If it wasn't for the fact that he was really strong and that he was a lightning-type cultivator, he would have been done for. Very quickly, Yen Wu came back, saying, "A bunch of brats, the strongest is only a true master with 3 true ring bodies." What a joke! I think if they get close, someone will attack them. Thunderstorm laughed. Don't be surprised. I think they don't even know the cruelty of seizing an ancient hidden Lune space. It's good to let them experience it. He said with a bit of schadenfreude. Lei Xingfeng couldn't imagine how to get this ancient hidden Lune space. Just the image in the air was more than 10 kilometers long from everyone's discussion. He knew this kind of sign. It's almost certain that this hidden Lune space is very precious. Normally, a few hundred meters long blurry image means a good hidden Lune space. And this one was unusually big. None of them have seen it before. As they got closer, everyone became more and more excited. Even Thunderstorm, Gulu, and Tai Long showed a happy expression. Chapter 70. Xian Feng noticed that we had already reached the bottom of the gigantic image. He could now deduce that the image was indeed a reflection of light, but as for how it was reflected and where it was, he couldn't understand it. Furthermore, he still couldn't see what the image was as it was too close. The image had turned into a large expanse of colored light, making it impossible for him to piece together the image. Thunderstorm calculated silently for a moment and said, "Are you guys done?" After a moment, Tai Popo said, 100 meters in front is the best position. Gulu smiled. "Don't ask me. I don't know how to calculate such things." Tai Lang said, "More or less, I'm leaning towards the south by a little." Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "Great-Grandma Dan, what are they calculating?" And Yaden said, "They are calculating the best entry point. Once we occupy that point, we will become the target of everyone. There will probably be a lot of killing. As for the people who come, if they aren't as strong as us, then we will be able to obtain the greatest benefits." Very quickly, Thunderstorm and Tai Lang determined the best position. Tai Lang ordered, "Immediately occupy this place. No matter who comes, beat them out." At this time, they definitely couldn't be humble. Unless the opponent had a stronger method than them, they wouldn't avoid it. Thunderstorm waved his hand. "Feng, come to me." He had to protect Lei Xingfeng. The reason why he let Lei Xingfeng follow was to let him gain more knowledge. Lei Xingfeng understood his painstaking efforts. With the support of such an elder, other cultivators couldn't compare to him. He would be able to obtain more resources, more opportunities to learn, and more knowledge. These things would have a great effect on his growth. The confirmed point was a small sand dune. Under Tai Lang's orders, they quickly surrounded the sand dune with sand tuo beasts. Anyone who dared to enter this area would be killed by them. Tai Long quickly ordered his men to set up a tall tent. This tent was also in the shape of an umbrella and was transparent on all 4 sides. If necessary, there would be thick curtains hanging down on all 4 sides to block the wind and sand. A thick carpet was laid on the ground to isolate the scorching hot sand. Lei Xingfeng didn't use his ring armor to insulate the sand. Luckily, after the tent was set up, it gradually cooled down in half an hour. Of course, the temperature was still around 40 degrees, but it was much better than the 70 to 80 degrees outside. The hot weather made Lei Xingfeng feel tired. He silently took a sip of water and couldn't help but smile. This water is boiling hot. Tai Popo did not make a sound as she reached out and took the water bag from Xian Feng's hand, stroking it a few times with her palm before passing it to Xian Feng. Xian Feng was shocked to find that the water in his water bag had already become ice cold, as if it had just been frozen. He couldn't help but drink mouthful after mouthful of water, fiercely exhaling a breath of cold air. "Thank you, Tai Popo." Tai Popo smiled and nodded without saying anything. These experts were very friendly to Lei Xingfeng. Of course, it was because of his relationship with Elder Thunderstorm. It was also because he had reached Wanluan Shi at such a young age. With such a genius potential, they were all experienced people. They didn't mind showing goodwill to Lei Xingfeng. It was also a type of investment. And Yaden curled her lips. She flipped her wrist and took out a bucket of ice. "Put it beside you. It will be much more comfortable." Lei Xingfeng took out a big water sack and put the ice in it. After a while, he poured a big glass of ice water for everyone. When he passed the ice water to Tai Lang, he asked, "Grandpa Tai Lang, how long do we have to wait?" Tai Lang smiled. "I don't know either. Maybe 2 days, maybe a month. We have to wait for the power binding the hidden Luan space to disappear. Then we can enter." Lei Xingfeng said, "If we can't enter now, there will be more and more people. This place will really become a battlefield. Do we have the confidence to defeat everyone?" He wasn't stupid. He knew that this was the key to entering. This was the target. Thunderstorm said, "Afong, don't worry. It will take at least 1 to 3 years for this news to spread. We are close. Even if there are experts who can come, it will be limited. We have enough strength here. But even if we are strong, we will have to fight until the hidden Luan space opens." Tai Lang smiled. "You can observe carefully. It will be beneficial for your training and battle." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Okay, Yi, be careful." Actually, what he hoped for the most was to be able to live peacefully in this world. He didn't want to have so many battles. But after witnessing the cruelty of this world, he forced himself to become strong. Tai Lang assigned the shift order. Lei Xingfeng also received his mission. Everyone was no exception. Jean Depang's mission was the simplest. He was responsible for everyone's cooking. This was everyone's opinion. This fatty's cooking was top-notch. It tasted great. Everyone who ate his food would have a strong impression of it. Lei Xingfeng received a better time slot. It was from sunset to midnight, which was the first half of the night shift. Jean Depang liked to bring a box of food for Lei Xingfeng after he finished cooking dinner. Then he would sit beside him. The two of them would chat from time to time. They would watch the sunset and the moving figures in the distance. 6 days passed. Not a single cultivator team came to fight for this place. Every time they saw a team from afar, they would watch them leave. Jean Depang looked at the moving figures in the distance and said with a smile, "That's strange. Why didn't they come?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Yeah, I don't know either. These days, at least 6 or 7 teams have passed by. None of them stopped to fight for this place." Yen Wu walked over and said, "Do you know the reason?" "I know the reason." Jean Depang asked curiously, "What's the reason?" Yen Wu said, "The answer is very simple." He revealed a mocking smile and said, "Because they don't know how to calculate. They don't know that this is the best place to wait." Lei Xingfeng said, "I see. Then, if a team came to fight for this place, it means that there is an expert in their team. Or, rather, there is an expert in calculation." Yen Wu was a little surprised. He smiled and said, "Not bad, Afong. You have a fast reaction." Jean Depang slapped his thigh and said, "That's right. No wonder they avoided us the moment they saw us. They don't know. according to a phone, if they can calculate the best place, this place won't be peaceful anymore. Lei Xingfeng said, at that time, we will be able to see high-level battles. He was curious. He had experienced many battles, but he had never seen a battle of life and death at the enlightened master level. He was actually very curious. He didn't know how the real experts of this world fought. Jean Depang nodded repeatedly, not to mention Lei Xingfeng. He had never seen one either. The most he saw was a battle between beginner cultivators and barbarians, or a battle between low-level cultivators. He also wanted to see a real battle between high-level cultivators. It would be very beneficial for his cultivation. It would also be very beneficial for his future battles. Yan Wu smiled and said, "You guys don't understand. A battle between low-level cultivators is actually more brutal. A battle between high-level cultivators and enlightened masters is actually less brutal." Lei Xingfeng said, "How is that possible? I feel that a battle between enlightened masters is even more intense." Yan Wu said, "In terms of intensity, of course, it is not something a beginner cultivator can compare to. A battle between enlightened masters is very loud, but it has nothing to do with cruelty." Lei Xingfeng said thoughtfully, "Maybe I will understand after seeing it." Yan Wu said, "Once you see more, you'll understand. Furthermore, it'll be extremely beneficial for your future growth. You'll know which areas you should strengthen and which areas you shouldn't pursue. Many cultivators may not even see a battle between experts in their entire lives." Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "I think this time I will definitely be able to see a battle between experts." Although it was very quiet at this time, there was a feeling that a storm was coming, making Lei Xingfeng feel very depressed. The sky was completely dark. Jean Depang smiled and said, "Hurry up and eat." Lei Xingfeng opened the lid of the lunchbox. It was filled with barbecued meat. Jean Depang gave him a few pieces of flatbread. Lei Xingfeng ate with big bites. It had to be said that Jean Depang's cooking was indeed amazing. The taste was very good. In fact, Lei Xingfeng's cooking was also not bad, but compared to Jean Depang's, it was much worse. After wolfing down the flatbread and meat, Lei Xingfeng wiped his mouth and praised, "Depang, with you accompanying me, I will definitely not have to worry about food and drink. Jean Depang laughed and said, "Apart from cultivation, my biggest hobby is my mouth. Living in this world to be able to eat all kinds of delicacies, this life is worth it." Lei Xingfeng joked, "Oh, so you are saying that the reason you cultivate is to find more delicacies?" Jean Depang nodded seriously and said, "After cultivating, it will be easier for me to earn money. Also, if I can cultivate to the level of Taoist master, my lifespan will be longer than normal people. Only then will I be able to eat more delicacies, right?" Yan Wu was shocked by his ambition. He asked, "You're cultivating to eat?" Jean Depang said, as if it was a matter of course, "Of course." Lei Xingfeng and Yan Wu were speechless. This guy was also a rare weirdo to actually have such thoughts. The next morning, Lei Xingfeng walked out of the tent. The desert was not hot in the morning and was even a little cold. When the sun rose, the desert quickly became a large furnace. Tai Long was on duty for the second half of the night, and his shift was in the morning. Elder Thunderstorm was in charge of the morning. From afar, a group of people was walking towards them. Thunderstorm, Tai Long, Yan Wu, and the others all quietly watched. They all knew that someone would come sooner or later. Lei Xingfeng stared at the people coming from afar. Jean Depang was right beside him. He said, "I hope they are just passing by." Chapter 71. This team was huge. There were at least 200 people, while Tai Long's team had at most 30 people. The difference in numbers was huge. Because of this, Tai Long, Thunderstorm, Gulu, Yen Wu, and the other experts were more relaxed. Having more people didn't mean more experts. Tai Long suddenly said, "It's the Scorpion Alliance." He didn't expect so many people from the Scorpion Alliance to come. The Scorpion Alliance was one of the three major powers in Rong land. They were quite strong. Tai Long had some reservations. Thunderstorm said, "Scorpion Alliance?" He wasn't too sure about the distribution of powers in Rong land. Tai Long said, "Scorpion Alliance, one of the three major powers in Rong land. They are quite strong, but I wonder who came this time." He was also one of the powers in Rong land, but he wasn't as strong as the Scorpion Alliance. In terms of experts, there was Thunderstorm and Gulu. Their high-level power wasn't weak at all. They were even stronger, but Tai Long still had some reservations. Old Man Thunderstorm and the others were outsiders. They weren't from Tai Long Night Fortress. Once they finished the mission of dividing the hidden Luan space, they would definitely leave. At that time, Tai Long's power would definitely not be as strong as the Scorpion Alliance. That was why he had reservations. Gulu laughed. "Scorpion Alliance, one of the three major powers in Rong land. They aren't much. Hee. If they piss me off, I'll teach them a lesson." His temper was also quite irritable, but it was much worse than Old Man Thunderstorm's temper in the past. Tai Long sighed. He didn't say anything. Old Man Thunderstorm patted his shoulder in understanding and said, "Don't worry, we won't take the initiative to cause trouble, but if they provoke us, I suggest you replace them. As long as you get rid of the higher-ups of the Scorpion Alliance, they won't be a threat anymore." Yenwu laughed. "That's right, I like this idea." Lei Xingfeng was speechless. These old men were all ruthless characters. None of them were easy to deal with. Tai Long seemed to be very familiar with the Poison Scorpion Alliance. He said, "Eliminating the upper echelons of the Poison Scorpion Alliance. With just a few of us, it is indeed possible. However, the problem is that not all of their upper echelons will be mobilized. The most powerful force will definitely be stationed within the Poison Scorpion Alliance. I reckon that the upper echelons that can come this time will be limited. It is very likely that they will invite other experts to participate." Old Man Thunderstorm laughed. "This doesn't seem like Tai Long's personality. When have you ever been afraid?" Tai Long smiled bitterly and said, "In the past, I could eat my fill and not have to worry about the whole family. Now, if I want to protect ordinary people, there are too many things I have to worry about. I can't do as I please." Yen Wu agreed. "That's right, having a family to feed is the most troublesome. Just like my old man. He rarely goes out and hides in the sect to train. He has to worry about this, and it's not fun at all. I'm too lazy to stay in the sect. It's better for me to come out and have fun." The Poison Scorpion Alliance was led by two sage with 5 true ring bodies. In Rong land, one sage with 5 true ring bodies was enough to support a large sect. The Poison Scorpion Alliance sent out 2 of these sages at once. They felt that it was more than enough. Moreover, there were 6 or 7 sages coming together. Although they didn't have 5 true ring bodies, there were still 2 or 3 true ring bodies. Their strength was definitely high. Tai Long sighed again and said, "Old brother, let's go and welcome them together." Thunderstorm pulled him back and said, "No need, they will come." He was a bit unhappy with Tai Long's attitude. He felt that Tai Long was a bit weak. Gulu said, "Old brother Tai Long, you go back first, we will do it." Tai Long's expression froze. He said, "It's okay, I will do it, don't worry." He knew that his attitude made his companions unhappy, but thinking about it, he couldn't be weak at this time. Being weak at this time meant that he would lose some power and benefits. The group stopped 100 meters away. 5 people flew out from the group. The 2 in the lead were Poison Scorpion Alliance's 5 true ring bodies experts. With 5 true ring bodies, they were called True Treasure Luanine Masters. They were just 1 step away from Ainli. Although it was a level lower than true ring bodies, it was still a huge threshold. Once they reached true ring bodies, their strength would be on a completely different level. They were still Luan Enli, one level lower than Enli. Luan Enli was one level higher than Lunli and one level lower than Enli. Once they reached true En, the Luan Enli in their body would transform into Enli. Their strength would increase greatly. Tai Long stepped forward and said, "De Long, AI Shibo, this is my camp." Thunderstorm secretly shook his head. He didn't know why Tai Long was so wary of the other party. His words had a hint of weakness. Gulu was also very unhappy. He immediately stepped forward and said, "Stop, this place isn't somewhere you can come." Saying that, he released his own unique pressure. An earth-shattering aura surged out, directly crushing over. With his true ring body and true En master strength, he was showing off his power. De Long and AI Shibo's expression changed. They originally thought that this was a small power and wanted to chase them away. They didn't expect it to be Tai Long. Although Tai Long Night Fortress couldn't compare to their Poison Scorpion Alliance, they weren't pushovers. Just as they were about to step forward to speak, a true En master with 6 true ring bodies appeared. Lei Xingfeng hid behind the group. The dispute between the true masters had nothing to do with him. He could only watch the show. De Long was a short man with an extremely sturdy body. The width of his shoulders and body was almost taller than his upper body. The feeling he gave off was that he was square-shaped with a large head, a head full of white hair, a fierce-looking face, a huge mouth with a mouthful of large front teeth, giving off a rude and unreasonable image. AI Shibo was an extremely handsome middle-aged uncle. He could be said to have an elegant demeanor. No matter if it was his appearance or his clothes, they were all impeccable. He had the demeanor of a noble. His face had the most amiable smile. Not knowing why, Lei Xingfeng didn't have a good impression of AI Shibo. Instead, he had a better impression of De Long. He couldn't help but laugh at himself. He probably couldn't stand handsome guys. Although he was an old handsome guy, there was always a tinge of envy and jealousy. AI Shibo stopped in his tracks. He didn't expect the other party to have such a powerful expert. He knew that it would be extremely difficult to occupy this place, but his heart was still unwilling. He couldn't help but grumble in his heart. He was too arrogant. He always thought that the Poison Scorpion Alliance had the most advantageous position in Shirong land. There shouldn't be any other power that could compare to them. He said, "Tai Long, long time no see." Tai Long said, "AI Shibo, long time no see." De Long continued to walk forward. Gulu was instantly enraged. He said in a deep voice, "Bastard, are my words bullshit? I'm asking you to fucking stop." De Long stared and said, "Is this your house? I'm walking. What does it have to do with you?" He was also used to being rude and unreasonable. Plus, the Poison Scorpion Alliance also had a true ring expert, so he wasn't too afraid. Gulu wasn't from Shirong land, so he didn't have any concept of the Poison Scorpion Alliance. Of course, he wasn't afraid of him. Plus, his temper wasn't good to begin with. He immediately pounced out and scolded, "You're just a fucking midget. How dare you speak to your senior like that? F****KU. De Long was sincere. He just wanted to see how strong the other party was. He had always been arrogant and untamed. Gulu's aura didn't suppress him at all. Bang! The two of them forcefully exchanged a blow. A ray of golden light, a ray of red light, flickered with a dazzling brilliance. In an instant, De Long was sent flying. He landed on a sand dune. Gulu pounced out once again. "Stop!" AI Shibo yelled. "Stop!" Tai Lang yelled as well. This time, not only did Gulu reveal a dissatisfied expression, even Elder Thunderstorm frowned. Tai Long quickly bowed and said, "Brother Gulu, please hold on. Let me say a few words first. How about it?" Gulu rolled his eyes and said, "All right, you say it first. I'll settle the score with him later." Although he didn't kill De Long with one palm, it still let him vent his anger. His mood improved. so he stopped temporarily. DeLong crawled out from the sand dune. The impact just now had directly shot him more than a meter deep into the sand dune. It had to be said that DeLong's identity made Gula hold back. He didn't want to kill his opponent and provoke a big power. It would be very troublesome. Even if he wasn't afraid, he understood that he didn't have much enmity with DeLong. It wasn't worth it to be ruthless. He still had this bit of propriety. Thunderstorm couldn't help but laugh. My temper now is better than yours, hee. If it was in the past, he would definitely be the first to make a move. DeLong noticed that DeLong wasn't threatened by his power. He started to have misgivings. A wise man wouldn't fight when the odds were against him. He didn't move forward anymore. It could be said that he was testing DeLong, but if he did it again, it wouldn't be a test anymore. It would be seeking death. Every expert had their own dignity. No one could endure repeated provocation. So he crawled out from the sand dune and waited at the same spot. This also meant that he had given in. AI Shibo laughed bitterly and said, "Tai Long, don't misunderstand. We're just passing by." He immediately changed his words. He could only do so. The old man Lei Bao snorted coldly. If it wasn't for Gulu's slap, the other party would have probably chased them away. He was used to the cruel fights between practitioners. Smart people knew when to stop. Tai Long also understood why DeLong said that. He also wouldn't expose him. He laughed. Hee, it's a misunderstanding. The two of them chatted idly for a while. AI Shibo immediately turned around and left. He called DeLong. The two of them quickly returned to the group, turned around, and left. Lei Xingfeng was a little disappointed. "It's a pity that we didn't fight." Yen Wu couldn't help but laugh. The consequences of fighting would be serious. Lei Xingfeng said, "But we don't have to be afraid, right?" Yen Wu said, "Of course, but it's better if we don't fight. We need to conserve our strength when the hidden Luan space opens. Ha! At that time, you will see what a battle is." Lei Xingfeng said, "I wonder if there's anyone else coming." Chapter 72. Elder Thunderstorm squinted his eyes as he watched the Scorpion Alliance members leave. They walked a few hundred meters and stopped on another sand dune. Obviously, they knew that the best spot was occupied by Tai Long, so they wanted to get closer. Gulu was a little annoyed. He said, "I'll chase them away." Thunderstorm said, "No need, hee. You know that once the hidden Luan space descends, their location won't be safe." Actually, Gulu didn't know because he didn't know how to calculate. It wasn't that high level meant that he knew everything. He said, "So it's like this. All right, then whatever. Just don't provoke me. Once we enter the hidden Luan space, if I see that DeLong, I'll make him regret it." He didn't mind killing his opponent at the right time, since they already offended him. Of course, if there wasn't a chance, then so be it. He wouldn't purposely find DeLong. Very quickly, a few more teams came over. Some of them had calculated the best spot, but when they saw that the Scorpion Alliance members didn't dare to occupy it, they understood and didn't dare to provoke them. This was something that Tai Long didn't expect. The expected battle didn't happen. Lei Xingfeng was a little disappointed, but he didn't think too much about it because after this period of training, he was about to level up. This wasn't a good place to train. The most suitable place for him to train was a place with thunder and rain. Here, it was hot and spicy, but Lei Xingfeng had an advantage that others didn't have. That was the Lei Yin in his body. This provided a lot of convenience. This was the benefit of having an expert's guidance. Lei Yin's existence made it easy for Lei Xingfeng to level up. He could absorb Lei Yin's power and turn it into his own Lei Lunli, slowly increasing his Lunli. Gradually, the Lunli in his body reached a critical point, reaching 100,000 Lei Lunli. Once he crossed that, he would be able to level up to Mill Wheel Master. The strength of a Mill Wheel Master was enough to travel the world. Lei Xingfeng wasn't anxious at all. He continued to follow Thunderstorm's teachings, strengthening himself bit by bit, and strengthening his foundation bit by bit. As time passed, the scene in the sky gradually disappeared. At this time, it was already impossible to calculate the best spot to enter. However, this didn't affect the experts that had already arrived. If they knew how to calculate, they would have already known the best spot to enter. They all stared at Tai Long's camp, but because of Tai Long's strength was unprecedented, no one dared to chase them away for now. Other than being on duty, Lei Xingfeng spent the rest of his time on training and learning. There were a large number of true masters here. No matter if it was the 1 true ring body Hong Chen or the 6 true ring body Gulu, they were all Lei Xingfeng's teachers. No one would reject Lei Xingfeng's guidance. One reason was because he was the grandson of Thunderstorm, and the other was because he was a genius. No matter what he learned, he would be able to understand everything. Therefore, these true masters were all willing to teach him. This kind of opportunity was hard to come by. Lei Xingfeng didn't know when he would be able to find such an opportunity again. Therefore, he didn't dare to relax at all. Every day was filled to the brim. No matter if he could use it or not, he would still ask and learn. Knowledge that he couldn't use might not be useless. This was something he understood in his previous life. Even if he knew the general idea, it was still better than not knowing anything. This time, the waiting time was really long. No one would have thought that this wait would last for 3 months. The image in the sky gradually disappeared. It was almost impossible to see it from below. Only a shadow could be seen from afar. Everyone knew that the hidden Luan space was about to descend. During this period of time, the food was almost depleted. Other than leaving a certain amount of food for everyone in Tai Long's team, they had already started to kill sand tua beasts a month ago to replenish their food. Some of the smaller teams had no choice but to retreat. Otherwise, they would really starve to death in the 1,000 sand barrier. As for Tai Long's camp, there were people who tried to enter from time to time. Some tried to coax, and some tried to force their way in. However, Tai Long and the other experts didn't give anyone a chance. All of them were blocked outside the camp. They had set up a perimeter. The perimeter of a few hundred meters was a restricted area. Anyone who tried to enter would be chased away. If they tried to enter more than once, they would be killed without hesitation. In the past few days, they had already killed 7 to 8 people. The teams outside the camp were getting more and more impatient. Even if they knew that Tai Long's camp had a large number of true masters, there were still people who didn't know what was good for them. Lei Xingfeng had been watching the battles from the side of the camp for the past few days. It was a pity that there weren't any real experts fighting. They were all probing attacks. On this day, Tai Long and Ai Shibo came to Tai Long's camp. They were blocked outside the camp by Gulu. Ai Shibo shouted, Tai Long, come out for a moment. I have something to discuss with you." Tai Long was, after all, a famous person. He couldn't just hide in the camp. When he came out of the camp, Thunderstorm and the rest followed him out. Lei Xingfeng said softly, "Fatty, they still can't wait." Jean Depang had lost a bit of weight recently. Although there was still enough food, it was just enough to eat. Adding on the hot weather, he naturally lost weight. He smiled bitterly. The time is almost up. Of course they can't wait. If they continue to wait, they might not get anything. I heard that when the hidden Luan space descends, the safest place is the calculated location. Old Man Thunderstorm said, "Tai Long, remember this. No matter what request they have, you can't agree to it. Once there is a gap, the others will swarm in. We won't be able to hold them off." At this point, Tai Long had no other choice. He nodded. Okay. He could not agree. Once he agreed, he knew that he wouldn't be able to mediate. They weren't afraid of the other party, but there were more and more practitioners coming to 1,000 Sand Barrier. There were also many lone travelers. They were all experts in fighting. Once all of them charged in, they might not be able to defend the camp. The time was almost up. If something were to happen now, all their efforts would be in vain. AI Shibo said, "Tai Long, I have something to discuss with you." Tai Long walked in front of the two and said, "What is it? Say it. I have something to tell you. This camp. I don't have the final say." He thought about it, and this was the only way to slightly shirk his responsibility. Tai Long stared at Tai Long and said softly, "Tai Long, we all know each other. Although we aren't familiar with each other, we are all practitioners from Shi Rong land." AI Shibo said, "Give us, the Scorpion Alliance, 2 spots." "We want 2 spots." Tai Long said, "As long as you give us 2 spots, the Scorpion Alliance will owe you 1. The 2 of us will also owe you 1. Many people came from afar and watched from afar. They were all practitioners, and many of them were high-level practitioners, true human-level experts. Even if Delon and AI Shibo didn't speak loudly, they could still hear them clearly. Tai Long glanced at the crowd and complained in his heart. If he rejected, he would completely offend the Scorpion Alliance. But if he agreed, he knew clearly that there would be many true master experts who would make requests. Did he have to agree to all of them? That was impossible. I said, "I don't have the final say in this camp." Thunderstorm couldn't help but shake his head. He didn't know that Tai Long was so indecisive. AI Shibo said, "Then who is in charge? Who has the final say?" Old man Thunderstorm couldn't help but stand up. He said indifferently, "I am in charge. I have the final say. Kid, there is no spot for you here." He rejected without any leeway. Tai Long raged. "Who are you? Who do you think you are?" Old man Thunderstorm smiled and said, "Kid, who I am isn't important. What's important is, I can kill you." A silver light rose into the air. Lei Xingfeng could tell with a glance that it was his grandfather's newly formed Lei Yin. Instantly, Lei Yin released a dazzling light. Thunderstorm said, "Thousand Thunderstorm. Destroy." Boom, boom, boom. Dense thunder sounds suddenly rang out. It was as if countless drums were being beaten. Heaven and earth trembled. Countless lightning bolts, as thick as buckets, rained down. Under the guidance of Old Man Thunderstorm, they suddenly smashed down. Tai Long and AI Shibo were scared silly. The 2 of them didn't even have time to react. Lightning's attack speed was only second to light attribute practitioners. However, its power exceeded light attribute practitioners. AI Shibo frantically tried to escape. Tai Long didn't have time to escape. He only had time to release his body-protecting Luanine force. Countless lightning bolts rained down on his body. Tai Long opened his mouth to speak, but swallowed his words. He knew that if he tried to stop them, he would definitely attract the hostility of his comrades. He only felt a headache as he watched Old Man Thunderstorm make his move. Instant kill. Tai Long was blasted into ashes. AI Shibo escaped quickly. He barely escaped with half his life. The main reason was that Old Man Thunderstorm was targeting Tai Long. No one would have thought that a true treasure Luanine master with 5 true ring bodies couldn't even block a single move from Old Man Thunderstorm. This was too frightening. After Old Man Thunderstorm killed Tai Long, he turned his target to AI Shibo. Lei Yin released a dazzling light. AI Shibo escaped extremely quickly. He had already escaped into his own group and shouted, "Go!" However, he couldn't be faster than lightning. In order to intimidate the surrounding people, Old Man Thunderstorm activated Lei Yin with all his might. The berserk Lei Yin released countless lightning bolts. 1,000 thunderstorms erupted once again. Lei Xingfeng opened his mouth wide. He stared blankly at the dancing lightning. He was truly shocked. He never would have thought that Yes, Lei Yin would be so abnormal. He finally had the common sense of a practitioner. Just from these two attacks, he understood that Yi definitely wasn't a sixth true ring body. He was most likely a seventh true ring body, or even higher. 1,000 thunderstorms rained down. Chapter 73. AI Shibo didn't stop at all. When Delan was turned into ashes, he knew that he couldn't beat that unknown old man. Therefore, he didn't hesitate to throw out a sealed artifact. It was his life-saving sealed artifact, an Earth attribute defensive sealed artifact. This was a sealed artifact from the ancient hidden Luan space. He spent a lot of effort to obtain this sealed artifact. In an instant, he was enveloped in a golden light. At this moment, 1,000 bolts of lightning struck down. Everyone in the camp took out their best defensive measures in an attempt to block the lightning. There were many teams around, all of them watching with their mouths agape. The Scorpion Alliance's camp was drowned in countless lightning bolts. Thunder rumbled, shaking the heavens and the earth. The earth, which was already hot, seemed to be boiling as smoke and dust rose into the air. When the smoke and dust dissipated and the sound of thunder faded away, the entire Scorpion Alliance's camp had already disappeared. The sand dune they were in had also completely collapsed. There was nothing left on the ground. It was completely blown away by the thousands of thunderbolts, leaving nothing behind. However, AI Shibo had managed to escape this calamity. The sealed artifact that he had tossed out had saved his life. That Earth-attributed sealed artifact, after blocking the 1,000 thunderbolts, had instantly turned into nothingness. However, it had still managed to block the terrifying attack of the 1,000 thunderbolts. Old Man Thunderstorm watched AI Shibo escape. He was already unable to attack a third time. Lei Yin's 2 consecutive crazy attacks had used up more than half of his stored energy. This was his full-strength attack. It could be said that he didn't care about the cost. In order to deter the people around him, he had no choice but to use his thunderbolt technique to intimidate the restless crowd. Half of AI Shibo's body was charred. He frantically ran away, not daring to stop. In his heart, he was screaming for revenge. Lei Yin descended from the sky, instantly disappearing above Old Man Thunderstorm's head. Old Man Thunderstorm's face was a bit pale. He said in a low voice, "Who else wants to occupy my camp? Get the F***CK out of here." The surrounding people were like rats whose nest had been destroyed. They frantically ran away. No one dared to stay. The scene just now was too frightening. With the old man's strength, no one here could stop him. Staying behind would be seeking death. In just a few minutes, not a single person could be seen in the camp. Jean Depeng muttered to himself, "Awe-inspiring, so fucking awe-inspiring. Sigh, I didn't expect the old man to be so strong. It's scary." Not only were Jean Depeng and Lei Xingfeng shocked, Tai Long and the others were also shocked. Gulu had a strange expression. He only just realized that Elder Thunderstorm was stronger than him. Yan Wu smiled bitterly. Tai Popo's face was still cold, but her slightly trembling hands revealed her shock. And Yaden covered her mouth. She had always known that Thunderstorm was an unfathomable person, but this time when he used his full strength, he was actually so ferocious. It still shocked her greatly. Tai Long smiled bitterly as he shook his head. He understood that his hesitation made Elder Thunderstorm despise him. At this moment, he understood that he could no longer be as unscrupulous as before. He already had someone he cared about and a huge responsibility. He could no longer act according to his own preferences. Thunderstorm turned around and left. He returned to his tent in the center of the camp and sat down to recover. This time, he didn't use up too much of his Yinli. On the other hand, Lei Yin's energy was mostly depleted. He had to recover Lei Yin's energy. This was his trump card. Gulu glanced at Tai Long and also turned to leave. Tai Long smiled bitterly again. He knew that Gulu was also dissatisfied. He was dissatisfied that he was too weak, to the point that the old man had no choice but to reveal their biggest trump card. After the old man, Lei Bao's crazy massacre, there was no one who dared to provoke them anymore. For 3 days, not even a shadow could be seen around the campsite. Originally, there were quite a number of people who were camping around the campsite, but after the massacre, they all left quietly. There were no traces of the hidden Luan space in the sky anymore. The sand tua beasts in the camp were all slaughtered. There was only a small amount of food left. If everyone was frugal, they could still eat for 10 days. This place was different from other places. There was no prey to be found at all. Everyone anxiously waited for the hidden Luan space to descend. Lei Xingfeng also stopped studying. These 2 days, he stayed beside Elder Thunderstorm. Elder Thunderstorm, Tai Long, Yen Wu Gulu, Anyaden, Tai Popo, Qi Xian, Hong Chen, Jin Depang, Lei Xingfeng, Yen Yen, and the others all gathered together. As for the true masters that Tai Long brought, they also gathered together. They knew that the hidden Luan space was about to descend. At this time, a subordinate reported that there were more people appearing around them. Tai Long said, "Don't mind them." Gulu said indifferently, "They won't dare to come close." Thunderstorm suddenly waved his hand and said, "Don't talk. Everyone listen carefully." There was a slight movement, and a faint "kacha" sound could be heard. Elder Thunderstorm said, "Remove the tents." Immediately, Tai Long's subordinates quickly removed the tents. Without the cover of the tents, the sunlight shone down. Everyone's eyes were bright. The scorching sunlight shone on their bodies. In just a moment, Lei Xingfeng's forehead was covered in sweat. He immediately activated his Mi Ring armor. He had leveled up to Mill Wheel Master 2 days ago. After leveling up to Mill Wheel Master, Elder Thunderstorm was very satisfied and slightly relieved. One must know that with the descent of the hidden Luan space, Wan Luanshi would be too weak. He had to split his attention to protect him. However, Mill Wheel Masters were different. At least they had a certain amount of ability to protect themselves. He could also use all his strength to fight for the treasures in the hidden Luan space. According to Elder Thunderstorm's instructions, everyone stood in a circle. This kind of calculation needed to be very precise. Elder Thunderstorm and a few others who could calculate, after a few calculations, they finally determined the best entry point. Slowly, the tremors got bigger and bigger. More and more people gathered around. They knew that the people in Tai Long's camp couldn't chase them away. A faint rumbling sound could be heard. The entire ground was trembling. Everyone felt extremely uneasy as the ground was filled with sand dunes. Following the increase in tremors, the sand dunes started to collapse bit by bit. Some of the larger sand dunes started to collapse. The old man Lei Bao shouted, "Everyone stabilize, don't fall." Everyone held hands and formed a circle. They waited for the ancient hidden Luan space to descend. Their faces were filled with excitement. Boom! Not far away, a sand dune collapsed. The people standing on top of it were immediately buried underground. Fortunately, they were all cultivators. If they were ordinary people, it would be very difficult for them to survive this collapse. One by one, they climbed out of the sand dune in a sorry state. Following that, sand dunes collapsed one after another. Even Elder Thunderstorm's sand dunes started to lower in height. The frequency of the ground shaking was getting higher and higher. Everyone was very excited and nervous. Who knew what was going to happen? The calmest ones were the true masters. After all, they had seen a lot of things and had great strength. so they had a lot of experience in such situations. The sky suddenly darkened. The land that was originally exposed to the sun turned black. Xian Feng raised his head to look and could not help but exclaim, "Fuck, what is this thing?" A huge black hole appeared in the sky. It was getting bigger and bigger. A huge whirlwind shot down. He shouted at Gulu, "I'll be outside. You'll be inside." Gulu replied, "All right." A red light appeared on top of his head and flew out. That was his fire seal. In an instant, a red light covered everyone. Elder Thunderstorm also flew out his Lei. He immediately flew outside and released countless lightning arcs to protect everyone. The 2 layers of protection blocked the whirlwind. That whirlwind was very strange. Not only did it produce sharp whistling sounds, there were black, snake-like shadows spiraling in the whirlwind. Very quickly, everyone saw a shocking scene. The practitioners in the surroundings, once they came into contact with the black shadows, they were instantly torn in 2 pieces. They couldn't escape, even if they wanted to. Instantly, in the whistling whirlwind, miserable cries could be heard. Jinda Pang was shocked. "Oh my God, what is this thing? It's so powerful." The black shadows were originally sparse. As the black hole in the sky grew bigger, they became more and more concentrated. Those crazily running people were constantly hit and turned into minced meat and blood. They disappeared in the whirlwind. All kinds of curses and miserable cries scared those who were still alive. It was hard for them to escape now. What was strange was that the black shadows that were wreaking havoc in the gale never passed by Tai Long's campsite. Occasionally, a few of the black shadows would attack, but they were all blocked by Lei Bao and Gulu's lightning and fire stamp. Very quickly, Lei Xingfeng realized that although the black shadows were powerful, but to true masters, their damage was limited. They could at least block most of the attacks. As long as they had 2 true ring bodies, they wouldn't die in the whirlwind. Elder Thunderstorm said, "This isn't a thing. This is the black astral wind. If you're not a true master, you'll be torn into pieces. It's not something normal practitioners can block. I didn't expect the black astral wind to appear. Seems like this ancient hidden Luan space isn't simple." The black astral wind was like a huge millstone, grinding the people inside into minced meat bit by bit. Originally, there were a few thousand people outside Tai Long's camp. There were also large amounts of sand tua beasts and desert hounds. With the arrival of the whirlwind and black astral wind, more than half of them were gone. The black astral wind even had a faint red glow. There were many 3rd, 4th, and even 5th ring true masters that started to attack Tai Long's camp, because everyone could see that this was the only safe place. If it wasn't for Elder Thunderstorm's deterrence, this camp would have been attacked long ago. It was all thanks to Elder Thunderstorm that they were able to hold on until now. Lei and Fire Seal. These 2 seals could only be formed by masters with 6 true ring bodies and above. Its power wasn't normal and was enough to block all kinds of attacks. Elder Thunderstorm shouted, "All of you scram! Whoever dares to attack our camp will be killed without mercy." You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.